After falling down the precipice, I discovered countless treasures left behind by an immortal. If I cultivate them to perfection, ascension to godhood is within my reach. Yet, I find no joy in this discovery. For not only am I suffering from severe injuries, but I am also on the verge of starvation. No matter how many mystical treasures I possess, I am in no state to enjoy them. Just as I was contemplating a way to save myself, the flowers in the garden suddenly spoke with human voices. "Hey, you brat over there. On the stone ledge sits a yellow jade vase. You may consume the medicinal pills inside." The sudden voice startled me, but at the mention of food, I summoned my remaining strength to follow its guidance and retrieve the yellow jade vase. As I pried it open, a wave of medicinal fragrance surged into my nose. Just catching the scent was enough to stave off my hunger. I poured out a single pill and swallowed it. Within moments, a warm stream of energy flowed through my internal organs. Not only did the hunger vanish, but I could clearly feel my spirit beginning to recover. What kind of miraculous elixir is this? It is truly wondrous. And furthermore, you must be a legendary flower spirit. One could say so. I saw that you were on the brink of starvation. This is a grain abstinence pill. Consume one, and you will not feel hunger for 10 days. Hearing this, my heart brimmed with boundless joy. I silently tucked the entire jade vase into my robes, then pointed toward the remaining 3 vases. And what of these? They contain tonics to strengthen one's foundation and heal internal and external injuries, though there is not much left. Which one treats external wounds? Upon hearing there was medicine for my external injuries, my eyes lit up. The green jade vase is what you seek. Without hesitation, I reached for it, poured out a verdant pill, and swallowed it. Before long, I felt a gentle warmth spreading from my waist, and as my wounds began to heal, my expression grew frantic. I stared fixedly at the items on the stone ledge, my eyes burning with greed. It is truly miraculous. Since you were fated to enter this cave dwelling, these items shall belong to you. There are 3 ancient manuals on the ledge, 2 are cultivation techniques, and the black scroll is a treasure map. If you are interested, you may cultivate the Zi Yuan Jue, the cultivation manual among them. Zi Yuan Ju? I remained somewhat bewildered. Yet I vaguely understood the significance of the term immortal cultivation. I vaguely recalled stories my grandfather told me as a child, claiming that immortals existed in this world, beings capable of traversing the heavens and earth, constrained by nothing. Although I was illiterate, I was born with a sharp wit, so I pointed toward the desiccated skeleton inside the poison vat. Is this person an immortal? He cannot be considered an immortal yet, merely a cultivator. However, these medicinal pills were all refined by him. If you can become a cultivator, you too can refine such pills, just as he did. Do you wish to become a cultivator? It suddenly softened its tone, enticing me. Upon hearing this, my heart stirred with intense excitement, beating far faster than it ever had before. If I could become a cultivator, would that not mean my grandfather's vengeance could finally be realized? From then on, I would no longer be bullied. Thinking of this, I spoke up hastily. Then what must I do? I will teach you. You need only follow my instructions. Seeing my agreement, a hint of excitement surfaced in its voice. Take out the Zi Yuan Ju. I shall teach you how to cultivate, but I do not know how to read. I scratched my head, feeling somewhat embarrassed. Illiterate? That is slightly troublesome, but it is of no great consequence. Bring those 3 ancient books over here. I complied with its request. I stepped forward to retrieve the 3 ancient books, then spread them out one by one in the garden. The first book on your right is the Zi Yuan Ju. It contains diagrams, and I shall explain the text to you. Do exactly as I say, and match your movements to the diagrams as you cultivate. I entered a daze and followed its instructions, sitting in a cross-legged position. Merely learning to identify the meridians and acupuncture points on the human body took several days. Following that, I became overwhelmed and bewildered by the complex, mysterious cultivation methods. I was, after all, unlettered, and had never before been exposed to the wondrous 8 extraordinary meridians. This left me feeling both exhilarated and agitated, though mostly overwhelmed by the profound, incomprehensible nature of the teachings, which were exceptionally difficult to grasp. Thus, another 7 days passed, and after I consumed another Anidia pill, the flower demon spoke up, sounding slightly anxious. How is it? Have you felt the flow of qi within your dantian yet? I shook my head, feeling somewhat helpless. Not yet. Flower demon. Could it be that I am too dim-witted? At this moment, I felt a sense of shame, fearing I had betrayed the effort it had spent teaching me over these past few days. The flower demon sighed helplessly upon hearing this and suddenly asked, "Check how many Anidia pills remain." I emptied them all out to count. There were 6 pills in total. 6 pills, plus the one you just swallowed. At most, you only have about 70 days remaining. It seems that given your aptitude, succeeding in cultivating the first level of the Xinyuan technique in 2.5 months and stepping into the first stage of the qi refining realm is quite impossible. It seemed to have realized that my talent was not particularly impressive. A hint of impatience surfaced in its voice. I remained silent, For some reason, at that moment, I suddenly ceased to worry about anything, leaving only indifference and a numbness toward my own fate. Deep within my heart, a newfound strength emerged, alongside a profound hatred for the injustices of the heavens. The stone chamber fell into silence, and I did not speak again. After a long while, the flower demon finally spoke. "There is a fruit upon my body. Pluck it. Remember, you may only pluck one. Otherwise, with your aptitude, consuming a second will only lead to you exploding and dying." Its voice was filled with pain and reluctance, yet intertwined with a sense of helplessness. I believed its words without a shred of doubt. I then plucked the fruit from the very top and swallowed it. Although it did not taste bad, an excruciating, unbearable pain immediately surged from deep within my body. I let out a cry and collapsed directly to the ground, feeling as if every vein in my body was stretching, on the verge of rupturing. My vision blurred, and I nearly lost consciousness several times, but I gritted my teeth, struggling to maintain a sliver of awareness. After an hour had passed, the pain finally began to dissipate. My senses gradually returned to me. As an extreme sense of comfort spread throughout my body, I discovered a layer of black filth coating my skin. "Little one, continue inward. There is an underground river there. Go and wash yourself." Seeing that I had survived the ordeal, the flower demon felt a measure of relief. I followed its instructions, guided by the sound of flowing water. My mind was clear, and the sensation was truly miraculous. Upon finding a suitable section of the underground river, I jumped in to wash. I discovered that the bruises from Yang Hu's previous beating had healed significantly. My heart was filled with deep gratitude toward the flower demon. Once I had washed clean, I even took the time to scrub my tattered clothes. I then returned to stand before the flower demon. "Continue your cultivation. From this point forward, you will find the path far easier than before." Hua Yao spoke with complete confidence. Sure enough, as I continued practicing the Xingyuan manual, I found the process significantly more manageable. After another 2 months of arduous training, with only the final pill remaining, I finally succeeded in mastering the first level of the Ziyuan manual. Filled with excitement, and intending to share the good news with Hua Yao, I suddenly saw a sphere of green light emerge from the garden. Before my eyes could even adjust or a word could leave my lips, the green orb of light shot directly into the space between my brows. With a sharp hum, I felt an intense, piercing pain between my brows, followed by a descent into a most bizarre dream. In this vision, I had transformed into a black sphere of light, no larger than a fist, drifting freely through a hazy, ethereal realm. Suddenly, a verdant sphere of light surged toward me with aggressive intent. It was several times larger than I, yet its radiance appeared faint and diminished. Upon catching sight of the black orb I had become, it paused in visible shock, seemingly struck with dread. Yet, it quickly recovered and lunged forward ferociously, beginning to tear into the black orb that was my form. I too refused to yield, surging forward to strike back in kind. Although its body was larger, and it quickly managed to envelop me entirely, the ferocity of the orb I had become far eclipsed its own, and for a time, neither could gain the upper hand. As the struggle persisted, the black orb I inhabited grew increasingly savage, gradually beginning to seize the advantage. The green orb clearly sensed the danger, yet seemingly unable to resign itself to defeat, it continued to clash with me. However, once I had consumed a portion of the green light, its aggression intensified. It was impossible. Finally realizing that it was no match for me, it attempted to flee. At that moment, only one thought dominated my mind: that under no circumstances could I allow it to escape. Driven by my intense will, the hazy world shifted in an instant, and a faint arc of lightning emerged to bind it completely. Wasting no time, I moved swiftly to devour it entirely. I do not know how much time had passed when I started awake and slowly opened my eyes. I could feel that my body was utterly exhausted and frail, and my mind felt profoundly chaotic. After a long moment, the fragmented visions dissipated, and my clarity slowly returned. I recalled the green light emerging from the garden before I lost consciousness, and the scene of our struggle and consumption within the dream. Although I could not fully grasp everything that had transpired, I was certain that the green orb of light possessed no benevolent intent toward me. There was a sinister plot involving Hua Yao. I called out softly, but half a day passed without a single reply. My heart suddenly turned cold. Hurriedly looking toward the garden, I discovered that the flower had withered at some unknown point. The remaining 6 black fruits had all shriveled up, leaving behind only dry husks, and the 7 leaves had also turned yellow and fallen off, devoid of any remaining color. Yet, half a day later, there was still no response. I suddenly stood up and roared in anger, "Flower demon! Flower demon!" But there was no longer any sound of the flower demon in this stone chamber, and I had already guessed that the green orb of light was, in all likelihood, the flower demon itself. At this moment I felt utterly bewildered, even fearful, but above all, consumed by indignation. I had no idea why all of this had happened. I had been full of gratitude and trust toward it, yet in the end, it had always deceived me, always seeking to do me harm. I sat dazed on the stone chair for a long while, and only after a long time did I stand up with a cold gaze, beginning to search the stone chamber once more with meticulous care. At the same time, a question lingered in my heart. Although I had successfully cultivated the first level of the Ziyuan Zhu, it seemed that, aside from a mysterious current of energy appearing in my dantian, whose purpose I did not know, my strength had not increased in any significant way. Could I now be considered a cultivator? It was a pity that I was illiterate. With the flower demon dead, I could no longer continue my cultivation. Once I managed to get out, I must learn to read no matter what. Afterward, I involuntarily walked over to the withered skeleton. As soon as I touched it, it crumbled into dust, vanishing into the air. Where it had been sitting, a hidden compartment was revealed, containing a white, flat jade piece and a square box the size of my palm. I held the white jade in my hand, but after studying it for half a day, I could not comprehend what it was, so I opened the square box instead, only to find it filled with embroidery needles, though they did not appear to be ordinary ones. These objects were much thicker than standard embroidery needles, and their surfaces shimmered with a mysterious light. After searching carefully several more times, finding nothing else of note, I gathered all the items together. I took one last look at the withered flower, and then made my way to the collapsed entrance of the cave, only to discover there was no way to climb out. I had no choice but to return to the stone chamber and follow the underground river downward. Previously, the flower demon had vaguely mentioned that this underground river flowed toward a gorge. Surely I could find an exit there. Yet, after enduring many hardships, I finally emerged from the mountains. Looking up at the clear, cloudless sky, for a moment, I felt lost, not knowing where to go or what path to take. I had originally intended to head straight to the town to learn how to read, and would temporarily avoid returning to Yangzhuang village. However, when I considered the items I was carrying, it would be disastrous if they were discovered by someone with malicious intent. Furthermore, I did not have a single spirit stone to my name. I would arrive in town completely empty-handed, but if I returned to Yangzhuang village, having been missing for over 2 months, it would inevitably invite suspicion. Especially that fellow Yang Hu. He would certainly press me for answers. If I already possessed the knowledge of the written word, I would certainly not go anywhere. I would remain in the mountains, silently cultivating until I had the strength to avenge my grandfather. After much deliberation, I decided to return to Yangzhuang village first. After all, a familiar place is always safer. Waiting until nightfall, I quietly buried my belongings in a desolate, unnoticed spot before returning to the village alone. Before I could even approach the dilapidated earthen hut, Yang Hu's dog began to bark incessantly. "Who is there?" Hearing the disturbance, Yang Hu pushed the door open, stepping out with an axe in his hand. "It is I replied coldly. Upon hearing my voice, Yang Hu was first stunned, then displayed a mocking expression. "So you are still alive? You brat, you are still alive? I thought you had perished out there." His voice was indifferent. In his eyes, I was not even worth as much as that guard dog. I could not be bothered to utter another word to him. I simply walked into the dilapidated hut and collapsed onto the bed, falling into a deep sleep. Flames of anger flickered in Yang Hu's eyes, but I had always maintained this cold demeanor toward him. Even when he beat or cursed me every day, I never once changed. Better that he didn't die. This time, I can make a profit off him yet. Yang Hu snorted coldly and turned to go back inside. After returning to the village for several days, I acted as I always had, never revealing anything unusual. However, one night I stealthily brought my belongings back and hid them within the earthen hut. It is strange to say, but ever since I returned, that fellow Yang Hu has uncharacteristically. On the 5th day, just as I awoke and stepped out of my earthen home, I encountered a strange, fierce-looking man. Upon seeing me emerge, Yang Hu's bloated face twisted into a grin. "Little Yang, come here." Hearing this, my eyelids twitched, yet I maintained my composure as I walked into the courtyard. The brutish man, his face a mass of flesh and jagged features, scrutinized me from head to toe. "Yang Hu, this brat is far too thin. Will he be of any use?" Seeing the man's displeasure, Yang Hu immediately began to flatter him, offering an explanation. "Foreman Zhao, while this lad may be lean, his bones are sturdy, and he possesses a surprising amount of strength." "Very well. If he has the strength, then I shall take him." Having said this, the brute gestured toward me. I was momentarily stunned, rooted to the spot in disbelief. Seeing my hesitation, Yang Hu pulled a piece of parchment from his robes. With a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, he said, "Little Yang, this is Foreman Zhao from Lin County, here to recruit laborers for our village. I have secured a position for you, and I have already signed the labor contract on your behalf with Foreman Zhao. Go with him. From now on, you shall have a legitimate profession. Consider this my way of honoring your late grandfather." Upon hearing this, I felt an intense urge to strike him across the face twice. This Yang Hu knew full well that I was illiterate. Even if he had tampered with the document, I would be none the wiser. What I loathed most was that this man, who had indirectly caused my grandfather's death, could still feign such saintly innocence. It was truly detestable. I turned my gaze toward the brute and asked, Foreman Zhao, what exactly is written on this paper? Foreman Zhao cast a glance at Yang Hu before speaking coldly. This is indeed the labor contract that Yang Hu signed for you. The terms state that you are to excavate ore at my Hengshan mine. You will receive 2 taels of silver per month, and after 3 years of service you may depart. Mining. I had heard of such things. Even while my grandfather was still alive, people had often come from the mines to recruit labor from our village. There were even those who had returned wealthy from the mines, able to marry and live a life of comfort. If I could go to the mines for a time and earn silver, then learning to read and write would become far easier. However, deep in my bones, I could not bring myself to trust a word that left Yang Hu's mouth. Nevertheless, after Foreman Zhao reiterated the terms, I remained half skeptical. Having nothing of value to pack, I bundled together a few coarse garments to change into. After a moment of careful deliberation, I decided to tuck the items I had found in the stone chamber into my satchel as well. I then followed Foreman Zhao to the main road outside the village and boarded a horse-drawn carriage waiting by the wayside. Upon climbing aboard, I discovered 4 other children already huddled on the carriage. They too were dressed in rags like myself. One could tell at a glance they were born into poverty. After traveling for several days, we finally arrived at the mining complex, hidden deep within the mountains. All of you, get out at once! Move, you curs! Overseer Zhao. Why are you striking them? Striking them? You were all purchased with my hard-earned silver. Whether I choose to strike or berate you depends entirely upon my mood. The 5 of you are now my mine slaves. If you do not obey me, you have only yourselves to blame should you be beaten to death. At this moment, a young child among them ran out of the mining area, weeping. Suddenly, a massive man appeared and kicked the child aside with a single blow. The child slammed into the rocky ground, convulsed a few times, and dark blood began to seep from the corner of his mouth. His fate remained uncertain. The faces of the others turned pale, standing frozen in their tracks, while a cold glint flashed in my eyes. I tightened my fists involuntarily, realizing I had been sold into mine slavery by Yang Hu, and a flame of fury ignited within my chest. Yet, the brutal scene before my eyes served as a constant reminder that I must not act rashly, for now I must conceal my true intentions. Afterwards, the child was dragged away, and I, along with the other 3, were led to a dilapidated wooden shack. Inside the shack, there were only 5 wooden beds. There was nothing else. Exhausted from the bumpy carriage ride and shaken by the recent horrors, the other 3 quickly fell into a deep sleep. I laid down, hands clasped behind my head. But unable to rest, I sat up in a cross-legged position. I practiced the first level of the Ziyuanju technique once more. Soon, my entire body felt invigorated and my fatigue vanished. I could vaguely perceive the strange flow of energy within me growing slightly stronger, though I remained troubled by the fact that I still did not know the true purpose of this internal force. As I pondered, the door to the shack was pushed open, and a gaunt, sallow-faced youth stepped inside. "Stop sleeping! Everyone get up and follow me to collect your tools." The youth roughly dragged the others from their beds, while I took advantage of the distraction to hide my bundle beneath the floorboards. We then followed the youth to a stone building. An elderly, frail man sat inside. The youth offered a respectful bow to the elder before speaking to us. "This is Elder Wei, who oversees the tools for our Jingshan mine. In the future, should your tools break or require replacement, simply come to Elder Wei." Turning back to the elder, the youth added, "Elder Wei, please provide each of them with a set of tools. Follow me." Afterward, each of us received a crowbar, a stone hammer, and a pickaxe. Liu Song struggled immensely to hold the tools. Hu Lai and Zhang Jiyu, however, had no such issues. I initially expected it to be an arduous task, but to my surprise, I found them incredibly light. I immediately feigned exhaustion to blend in. The very next second, a flicker of something unusual flashed in Old Wei's eyes. "What is your name?" "Yang Fan. My limbs are old and brittle, and my constitution is no longer what it once was. You lads should just stay here and assist me." Since Old Wei had spoken, there was naturally no objection. "You brat, you are truly fortunate. Hurry up and thank Old Wei." Though I did not fully understand what had just transpired, I vaguely realized that I would likely no longer be required to mine for ore. Thus, I hurriedly followed suit, cupping my hands in a salute to thank Old Wei. Afterward, the young man led Hu Lei and the others away. I remained standing in place, momentarily unsure of what to do. Meanwhile, Old Wei regarded me with a peculiar gaze. "Little Yang, I see that you possess no small amount of strength, which is why I have kept you here to assist me. However, the work here is by no means light. Since today is your first day, take some time to familiarize yourself with the surroundings. These are the regulations regarding mining tools for the Jinshan mining district. You must commit them to memory." With those words, he tossed a small booklet toward me. I reached out to catch it, revealing a hint of embarrassment on my face. "That, Old Wei, I am illiterate. Illiteracy is of no consequence. You only need to attend to your duties here, and I shall teach you gradually." "Many thanks, Old Wei." "Wait, do not be so quick to thank me. I have conditions for keeping you here. Starting tomorrow, you must run one full circuit around the mining district within the span of a single hour every day. If you fail to complete the run, your breakfast and lunch for that day will be forfeited. If you can accept these terms, you may stay. If not, you are free to return to the mines. Although I did not understand why he would make such a request, I have been gathering herbs on Mount Wanglong since I was a child, and I am confident in my stamina. Furthermore, I will be able to learn. Therefore, after a moment's thought, I agreed immediately. Afterward, Elder Wei introduced me to several important rules and the tasks I would be responsible for, then sat down before the entrance of the stone dwelling. He closed his eyes. At that moment, I could not help but feel a flicker of anxiety, fearing that the parcel I had hidden beneath my bed might be discovered by those returning. Thus, I opened my mouth to ask, Elder Wei, where shall I reside from now on? Naturally, you will reside within this stone dwelling. There is a bed in the inner chamber. See that you tidy it up. Understood, Elder Wei. I shall return to fetch my belongings, for I will only be at ease once I have hidden them beneath the quilt. In the days that followed, I dutifully complied with Elder Wei's requirements, running laps around the mining area every single day. A few days later, that man, Zhao Ming, suddenly stormed in aggressively. Elder Wei, what is the meaning of this? I spent cold, hard silver to purchase this boy. Name your price, and I shall pay you back whatever sum you spent. Wei Zheng, others may fear you, but I, Zhao Ming, do not. Elder Wei, what is the meaning of this? I spent cold, hard silver to purchase this boy. Name your price, and I shall pay you back whatever sum you spent. Wei Zheng, others may fear you, but I, Zhao Ming, do not. Within the Wu sect, my nephew is a core disciple of the inner sect, while you are merely an outer sect elder exiled to this mining pit. Do you intend to snatch my mining slave? That will never happen. Zhao Ming, I have decided to keep this boy. If you are not satisfied, feel free to summon your nephew to demand him from me. Let us see whose status carries more weight. A disgraced outer sect elder like myself, or your inner sect nephew. Zhao Ming had not expected Elder Wei to be so unyielding, and his expression turned incredibly unsightly. Very well, just you wait. Zhao Ming turned on his heel and departed. Han Li observed the entire exchange in silence. Elder Wei, have I caused you any trouble? This Zhao Ming merely relies on the reputation of his talented nephew. Though I am an exile sent here by the sect as punishment, I am not someone that any ordinary disciple can bully at will. I had never heard of any such sect before. The terms outer sect disciple and elder were both strange and novel to me. Yet I did not inquire further. I only wished to begin learning as soon as possible. The next day, before the break of dawn, I emerged from my stone dwelling and began my run around the mountain. To ensure absolute secrecy and avoid any potential oversight, I utilized these early morning runs to my advantage. I had already concealed 3 ancient books and scrolls, tucking them away into several secluded mine shafts outside the main excavation area. The ancient text currently in my hands was not the Ziyun Ju, but a thick, worn manual titled Alchemy Miscellany. Within its pages were recorded the names and properties of numerous rare medicinal herbs. It also contained several medicinal prescriptions, alongside detailed methods and steps for refining elixirs. Furthermore, it provided an introduction to the strengths and weaknesses of various heaven and earth spirit fires and the innate flames of cultivators. It is a pity that my current grasp of the language is limited, preventing me from fully deciphering the text. Nevertheless, I was able to identify the names and functions of the few bottles of elixirs I had acquired. I studied the Alchemy Miscellany for quite some time with utmost seriousness. Soon, I arrived at another abandoned mine shaft. Here I had hidden a different cultivation technique called the Chaos Heaven and Earth Art, which differed greatly from the cultivation methods of the Ziyunju. Based on the level of literacy I possess, this appeared to be a technique focused specifically on tempering the physical body. I held the manual and read it very slowly, almost word by word, pondering each one with great care. Before long, I found myself completely immersed in the profound mysteries of this miraculous technique. Without realizing it, I had sat cross-legged, closed my eyes, and begun to cultivate. When I opened my eyes again, I was startled, hurriedly concealing the manual before sprinting back to my stone dwelling. As I reached the stone dwelling, Elder Wei's expression was clearly displeased. You have taken too long this time. Let there not be a next time. Understood. Having said that, I turned around and began to organize the repair tools. But halfway through the task, Elder Wei suddenly spoke, interrupting me. Little Yang, how have you found my treatment of you over these past 6 months? Elder Wei had of course treated me very well. You must find it strange why I have insisted on you running around the mountain for these past 6 months, correct? It is true that I have had some questions regarding that. Little Yang, I will be direct with you. I kept you here to assist me, and forced you to spend 6 months running around the mountains to strengthen your physique, all because I intend for you to become my medicinal test subject. A medicinal test subject? That is correct. I was once the elder of the poison hall in the outer sect of the Wu sect, but because I was researching an antidote that remained flawed, the eldest daughter of our Wu sect was left disfigured after falling victim to the poison. The sectmaster sentenced me to death, but fortunately, the eldest daughter was merciful and kind, and she spared my life. In the end, I was banished to this place by the sect to repent for my sins. For these past few years, I have labored tirelessly, hoping to perfect this antidote. Over the last few days, I have felt that the formula is nearing completion, but as I am a condemned man, I cannot leave these Xinshan mines. Therefore, I have no choice but to select a test subject from among you miners. You mean you want to create the poison? And then have us ingest the antidote you have developed? That is the general idea. But since this is a trial, I will not force you to consume the poison directly. Instead, you will submerge yourself in the toxic liquid. I will control the dosage of both the poison and the antidote to observe how the toxicity reacts. Rest assured, you will certainly not die. If you agree, I will find a way to have you join my Wu sect and enter the inner sect directly. If you refuse, you may leave right now and return to the mines. However, that man Zhao Ming will likely take his anger out on you. Hearing this, I immediately realized that Elder Wei did not have good intentions. In this world, aside from my grandfather, no one is kind to me without a reason. After a moment of contemplation, I agreed to Elder Wei's proposal, but I also set two conditions. First, the submersion in the toxic liquid must be performed here. Second, I hope that Elder Wei can teach me martial arts. Elder Wei was momentarily surprised upon hearing this, but ultimately, he agreed. Afterward, Elder Wei brought over a large wooden tub, filled it with clear water, and then produced several bags of medicinal herbs to begin mixing the poison. Very quickly, the clear water turned a deep shade of emerald green, emitting a pungent, nauseating odor. With a blank expression, I stripped off my clothes and stepped into the tub. My skin immediately felt as if it were being pricked by needles, followed by an unbearable itch, and black energy began to manifest on my face. Elder Wei stood nearby, observing the changes on my face with a look of madness in his eyes. He then poured another bag of poison into the tub and retrieved a single medicinal pill. This is the antidote. Consume it quickly. I hesitated for a moment before swallowing the pill. Soon, the black energy on my face began to recede, but it returned even more intensely shortly thereafter. Seeing this, a look of dissatisfaction flickered in Elder Wei's eyes, and he appeared somewhat helpless. Get up. The trial ends here for today. Elder Wei, leave this toxic concoction to me. I will find an abandoned mineshaft later to dispose of it. Very well, but be warned. This toxin is extremely potent. Even though you have consumed the antidote, the residual poison remains within your body. I waited until Elder Wei had been gone for quite some time, before turning my gaze back to the green poisonous liquid. I disrobed once more, sat inside the wooden barrel, and immediately began to circulate the chaos heaven and earth technique. An hour later, the poison within the wooden barrel had begun to transform into clear water. To ensure Elder Wei would not discover my secret, I intentionally left a trace of the toxins within my body, then put on my clothes, and began to perceive the changes occurring within me, a profound joy surging in my heart. I could sense that my body had already undergone subtle shifts compared to before. While my skin appeared unchanged, its internal resilience had been significantly reinforced, leading me once again to marvel at the miraculous nature of the chaos heaven and earth technique. For the next 2 months, I followed this established routine, secretly utilizing the residual poisonous liquid after each test to continuously temper my physique. Over these past 2 months, Elder Wei had become increasingly satisfied with my cooperative attitude. Consequently, he began to impart some basic martial arts to me, and even went so far as to teach me a single poison-based technique. I realized that, at some point, a full year had passed since I arrived at the Xinshan mining area. Not only had I mastered martial arts, but I had also learned to read. Now, I could read the entirety of the Xinyun technique and the alchemical records without missing a single character, though the Chaos Heaven and Earth technique remained beyond my full comprehension. Furthermore, I had no leads regarding the accompanying magic techniques at the end of the Ziyun technique. To master them was proving exceptionally difficult. However, I have learned to compose myself, focusing solely on the practice of the ice arrow technique contained within those pages. Because cultivating the Chaos Heaven and Earth technique and the Ziyun technique simultaneously resulted in such sluggish progress, I could clearly sense that I was still a long way from the third level of qi refining. Thus, I dedicated more time exclusively to the Xinyun technique, knowing that reaching the third level of qi refining was the prerequisite for utilizing the Banjazine pill. Late at night, I crept into an abandoned mine shaft, clutching the alchemical records, my eyes burning with intensity. I had now fully deciphered this alchemical tome without missing a word. Learning that the flower I encountered in the cave that day was a 9-leaf sun-seeking fruit, a rare celestial herb, far more precious than any standard medicinal plant in the cultivation world. An ordinary person would only need to consume a few leaves to wash away the marrow and transform their bones, while a cultivator who consumed it would not only increase their cultivation base, but also significantly fortify the resilience of their physical body. This knowledge made me long to return to that cave immediately. The record stated quite clearly that even if the plant appeared withered, so long as the roots remained alive, it could be replanted, nurtured, and made to bloom and fruit again. I had long harbored a desire to depart from this Jinshan mining area, yet after repeated observations, I discovered that the only exit leading to the outside world was the path by which I arrived. That singular exit was guarded by more than 10 outer sect experts of the Wu sect, and with my current magical power only at the second level of Qi refining, I lacked the confidence to escape, forcing me to devise an alternative strategy, at which point I retrieved the white jade pendant and the square box from a different crevice in the rocks. Neither the manuals I possessed nor the black scroll contained any information regarding the jade pendant or the small golden object. Although I suspected this tiny needle was a form of hidden weapon, it was a pity that Elder Wei would rather die than teach me his secret techniques. He claimed these weapons were the sect-guarding treasures of the Wu sect's inner circle, and could not be passed down to those outside the inner gates. I held the white jade pendant, examining it over and over. I even considered biting it to see if it would yield. Yet I could find no clues. I intended to smash it with a stone to see what lay inside, but I feared I would regret it if I destroyed it. In the end, I had no choice but to helplessly hide the pendant and the tiny needle, then quickly headed toward the stone house. Not even halfway there, I could hear the sounds of shouting and combat echoing from the distance. Seeing this, I was startled. Taking advantage of the moonlight, I crept toward the scene. As I drew closer, I saw Elder Wei locked in a struggle with a masked man dressed in blue. Just as Elder Wei seemed to be losing, a cold light suddenly flashed, and he spat several slivers of light from his mouth, aiming straight for the eyes of the blue-clad man. With a shower of sparks, the masked man pulled out an iron hook from nowhere, successfully blocking Elder Wei's hidden weapon. To my astonishment, I realized I could clearly perceive every movement Elder Wei made. Overjoyed, I immediately began to reenact his hidden weapon technique in my mind. Feng Shu, you are truly bold to dare infiltrate the territory of my Wu sect. Tonight, I shall ensure you meet a death without a burial ground. Elder Wei seemed to have recognized the man, for as he spoke he waved his hand, launching another volley of cold light. The man in blue did not reply. He simply swung his iron hook repeatedly to deflect the projectiles, then stepped forward, aiming his weapon directly at Elder Wei's head. Seeing this, Elder Wei roared, "Feng Shu, go to hell!" The masked man dodged in a panic, but in the critical moment, a long, bloody gash was carved across his face. "Damn it, it's poisoned!" The man in blue hissed a curse, his figure surging toward the forest, vanishing into the moonlight in a heartbeat. At that very moment, two men rushed out from the direction of the mine exit. "Elder Wei? What is happening here?" "It is Feng Shu, from the Fei Kui Pavilion. He managed to bypass your watch and snuck in here. I have wounded him, and he has been struck by my poison. He will not make it far. Gao Jia, go into the mountains and search for him. Leave no one alive." Upon hearing this, the old man who had been with him waved his hand, and the thin man accompanying him gave chase into the mountains. I held my breath, hiding in the shadows, waiting until Elder Wei had retreated into the stone house, before sneaking away. If that man named Feng Shu were to hide in the cave where I concealed my treasures, it would be disastrous. At that thought, I was jolted by a sense of urgency and flew toward the mine cave. A short time later, I arrived at the entrance of the treasure cave. Before I could step inside, I heard the sound of hushed voices coming from within. I carefully concealed myself outside the cave entrance, straining my ears to listen. "Feng Shu, you are becoming truly useless. You couldn't even kill an old man with one foot in the grave, yet you dare to brag at the Fei Kui Pavilion." Upon hearing the voice, I could not help but shudder. Was this not the very same old man I had just seen speaking with Elder Wei? Why is he here? "Jia Huo, do you even have the audacity to speak to me? Didn't you claim that the toxins within Wei Zhang had already ravaged his body, leaving his cultivation base a shadow of its former self? Yet, the strike he delivered just now showed no signs of diminished power. Had I not taken precautions, I would surely be a corpse by now." Feng Shu wheezed, his tone dripping with resentment. Upon hearing this, Jia Huo let out a cold snort, stating that Wei Zheng, riddled with guilt for disfiguring the eldest miss, had willingly ingested poison in a desperate attempt to refine the perfect antidote. Everyone in the Wu sect knows of this, and the antidote I gave you will flush out the remaining toxins within a day. There is no need for such concern. Hearing this, Feng Shu slowly began to calm himself. Then, what of the promised reward? If you can eliminate Wei Zhang within 3 days, the reward will be doubled. This matter can no longer be delayed. For the past few months, Wei Zhang has been using mind slaves to test his concoctions. Rumor has it that he has finally perfected the antidote. If word of this reaches the sect master, Wei Zhang will undoubtedly make a return. Once that happens, the poison hall of the outer sect will fall back into his hands. Therefore, I give you 3 days at most. If you fail, others will be sent to take your place. Let us depart. Jia Huo spoke with icy detachment before walking toward the cave entrance. Seeing this, I had no choice but to retreat and hide. Once Jia Huo and the thin man had vanished into the distance, I stared at the cave entrance, filled with unease. What was fated to happen has arrived. Truly, my luck is abysmal. This fellow has entered the very cave where I stashed my belongings. Fortunately, I am intimately familiar with these tunnels, and know of an ideal hiding spot. I slipped inside, praying with every step that he would not discover the items I had hidden. Since practicing the Ziyunju, my body has become increasingly agile, allowing me to move without the slightest sound and reach my sanctuary safely. Through a narrow crevice, I watched as Feng Shu removed his mask, revealing his true face. He appeared to be over 50 years old, with a ghastly scar running across his right cheek, evidently inflicted by the hidden weapons of Elder Wei. His face was deathly pale. It seems the residual poison has yet to... At that moment, a sudden clattering sound echoed through the cave, followed by a flash of white light. A jade slip. Feng Shu's voice was filled with disbelief, his speech stuttering. He had merely kicked at some loose rubble, never expecting to stumble upon a hidden stone that revealed a white jade pendant. Seeing this, I cursed internally. Just as I prepared to throw caution to the wind and charge out, I heard him mention a jade slip and freeze in his tracks. A jade slip? Could this man actually recognize such an object? Through the crevice, I saw Feng Shu's hands trembling with excitement. Then, I watched as he picked up the jade pendant. He hesitated for a brief moment before pressing it against his forehead. My mind buzzed with sudden clarity. My heart surged with excitement. So it was meant to be placed against the forehead? An artifact of an immortal master. Could it truly be an artifact of an immortal master? I never imagined that I, Feng Shu, would encounter such fortune in my twilight years. Feng Shu let out a maniacal laugh before tears began to well in his eyes, clutching the jade slip while alternating between weeping and laughing. His behavior caught me off guard, but how could I allow this treasure to fall into his hands? Regardless of his status as a martial arts expert, I would strike and seize it immediately. I launched a fierce, black tiger steals the heart strike toward him. Who goes there? Feng Shu had, after all, spent many years navigating the treacherous world of martial arts. Realizing he was being ambushed, he reacted instantly. His body spun with agility, delivering a swift kick in my direction. A cold glint flashed in my eyes as I met his strike with a forceful punch. An immediate sensation of numbness surged through my fist. I retreated at once, reaching out to retrieve the square box I had hidden among a pile of rocks. Although Feng Shu had taken an antidote for the poison, the remnants still lingered in his system. Exerting his true chi only caused the toxins to flare up more violently. Who are you? I paid him no mind, silently drawing a handful of small needles from the box. Recalling the hidden weapon techniques Elder Wei had previously demonstrated, I flicked my wrist and unleashed the needles forward. Although Feng Shu could not see my face clearly, he spotted the motion of my hand and instinctively recoiled in vigilance. Damn it! Feng Shu suddenly felt a sharp, stabbing pain in his legs, as if pierced by something lethal. Daring not to channel any more true chi, he made a desperate dash toward the cave exit. But he had not run far before his legs gave way, causing him to collapse to the ground, his forehead slick with cold sweat. Seeing Feng Shu suddenly fall, I seized the opportunity to throw another handful of needles. This time, more than half of them buried themselves deep into his back. Following this, I picked up a stone fragment and hurled it with great force at the back of his neck. With a sickening thud, Feng Shu met his end, an unjust death at my own hands. As this was my first time taking a life, my stomach churned uncontrollably, and it took a long while for me to compose myself. Once I had regained my composure, I stepped forward to pick up the jade slip and pressed it against my forehead. Instantly, countless characters flooded my mind, leaving me reeling with waves of dizziness. It was, in truth, an immense volume of information. I stood rooted to the spot for a long while. This object, known as a jade slip, concealed within it a mysterious formation called the Taishuan Light Guiding Formation. As for the square box, it was a supreme magical artifact set named Flying Fire Meteor, containing small needles known as Flying Fire Needles. There were 360 in total. Once one channeled spiritual power into the Flying Fire Needles, it was possible to manifest the Taishuan Light Guiding Formation, and by utilizing divine sense to control them, create lethal binding and slaughter arrays. Although I had never heard of formation-based artifacts before, when combined with the knowledge I had already acquired, I concluded that these were, for the most part, armaments for cultivators. That I had previously treated them as mere hidden weapons seemed, in retrospect, truly laughable. Furthermore, from the jade slip, I learned that divine sense was perhaps that very special form of consciousness that I felt growing stronger within me day by day. It was a pity that there remained so much I did not understand. If only I could be accepted into a cultivation sect, that would be for the best. But for now, I had to quickly recover the Flying Fire Needles. The method for retrieving them was simple. for the square box was itself an auxiliary artifact known as the meteor casket. By merely channeling spiritual power into it, the meteor casket immediately emitted a crimson glow. Following this, the flying fire needles scattered throughout the mine, including those embedded in Hongtu's body, automatically flew back toward the meteor casket. I immediately retrieved one needle, poured my spiritual power into it, and then unleashed it with the hidden weapon techniques taught by Elder Wei. A streak of black light flashed by, and the flying fire needle vanished instantly into the solid rock wall. Spiritual power, cultivation techniques, magical artifacts. At this moment, I had begun to grasp a few truths. I remained in silent contemplation for a long while before using the meteor casket to retrieve the needle. Next, I attempted to form the Taishuan light guiding formation, but to my regret, I failed. It appeared that my current cultivation base was too shallow, and both my divine sense and spiritual power were insufficient, for I could not even simultaneously control the 36 needles required as the minimum for the Taishuan light guiding formation. Yet, I vaguely sensed that this was not merely a matter of spiritual power and divine sense. I felt as though something essential was missing, yet after pondering for ages, I remained without a clue. Since I cannot fathom it, there is no use in dwelling on it any further. Besides, the harvest tonight was substantial enough to warrant great joy. Now that I no longer need to worry about my own lack of strength, I shall retrieve all the items hidden throughout the various mine shafts. By the time I finished all these tasks, dawn was already approaching. I have decided not to mention anything about today's events to Elder Wei for the time being. I only need to cultivate for a little while longer, and once my cultivation reaches the 3rd level of qi refining, I shall leave this place without a second thought. As for Elder Wei, he never truly harbored good intentions toward me. Although he did grant me some small favor, my agreement to test poisons for him has already repaid that debt. If not for my heart-clearing pill, the residual toxins lingering in my body from those tests would have long since destroyed me. It is merely by chance that I am practicing the chaos heaven and earth art. These toxic concoctions can be absorbed to temper my physical body, which could be considered a blessing in disguise. Thereafter, life returned to its routine. Every late night I would slip into the secluded forest, tirelessly repeating the practice of defensive techniques. Elder Wei also began to call upon me to test poisons less frequently. Another month passed in this manner, until Elder Wei declared that the poison testing had concluded. Yet, on the very second night after the testing ended, Elder Wei was assassinated by mysterious figures. This time, 2 attackers arrived to carry out the deed. Despite his strength, the Elder was overwhelmed by their numbers, and forced to use his life-preserving poison arts to repel them, leaving himself severely wounded in the process. Nevertheless, I chose not to intervene. At this moment, beyond avenging my grandfather and pursuing the path of immortality, I have no interest in anything else. The following day, I arrived at Elder Wei's bedside. Elder Wei looked lethargic, propped up half-reclined on his bed. Little Yang, I gave you my word. Since you tested poisons for me, I shall guarantee your entry into the inner sect of the Wu clan. Take these 2 letters to the Wu clan, and seek out the eldest Miss, Wu Qingxuan. She will admit you into the sect once she has read them. After accepting the letters, I remained silent, saying nothing. Since he provided 2 letters, this old man must surely have a request, and indeed he did. After a moment of silence, Elder Wei smiled bitterly and said, "You child, sometimes I truly cannot see through you. At such a young age, I do not know from whom." Elder Wei, if you have a request, pray tell me plainly. If it is within my power, I shall not refuse, and it shall be considered a repayment of the debt I owe you. I spoke these words with profound composure. Upon hearing this, Elder Wei was momentarily stunned, the bitterness on his face deepening further. "Young Yang, here are 2 letters. One guarantees your entry into the Wu Gate, and the other contains an antidote prescription. First, deliver the letter of recommendation to the eldest young miss, and if, by any chance, the Wu Gate refuses you, then for the letter containing the antidote prescription, there is no need for you to hand it over." Upon hearing this, a strange flicker of light ignited in my eyes. "Elder Wei, your talent is not lacking. Had I not been poisoned and ambushed into such a critical state, I would have certainly intended to take you on as my disciple. It is a pity that I foresaw my end arriving on this day long ago." As he spoke, he produced a thick, weathered volume. "My life's study of poisons is contained entirely within this scripture. If you have interest, you may learn from it. If not, then help me find a successor to pass this legacy on." With a heavy heart, I accepted the poison manual and offered a solemn nod. "If the opportunity arises, I will certainly help you find a suitable successor." Elder Wei smiled faintly and closed his eyes. I bowed deeply, turned, and stepped out of the stone chamber. I knew others would arrive to handle the funeral rites, but before departing the Qingshan mine, I naturally had to settle the score with that man, Zhao Ming. After gathering my meager belongings, I headed toward the active mining shafts. The Qingshan mine is one of the properties belonging to the Wu Gate, providing a massive annual supply of iron ore for the forging of their hidden weapons. Over the past few days, I had already inquired thoroughly. That man, Zhao Ming, was originally a common bandit, but his nephew, Zhao Ju, possesses extraordinary martial talent and has caught the eye of a high-ranking elder within the Wu Gate. Relying on Zhao Ju's reputation, this Zhao Ming has risen to become one of the most powerful figures here at the Qingshan mine. At present, he commands over 100 miners, filling his own coffers by ruthlessly exploiting these enslaved laborers. I walked past each of the active mine shafts, observing the miners within, drenched in sweat like rain, their faces coated in layers of grime, thinking of how these many men had poured out their blood and sweat, only to receive not even half a copper coin in return. I could not help but feel, once again, the sheer cruelty of this world, the cold indifference of fate in this world. If I had not been pushed off the cliff by Yang Hu, and had I not stumbled into the immortal's hidden cultivation cave, I would be just like one of these people, perhaps even suffering a fate far worse than theirs. Suddenly, an angry shout erupted from within one of the mine shafts. Dare to be lazy? I'll beat you to death. Immediately followed by the sharp crack of a whip, and a voice pleading, "Please, sir, stop the beating." It seemed someone was begging for mercy. Hearing this, I walked toward the sound. When I saw clearly who had been struck to the ground, my gaze instinctively frozen. My gaze could not help but linger. The person before me was none other than Meng Ran, the one who had been brought to these Qingshan mines alongside me. I clearly remember that day when he attempted to escape, only for a burly man to kick him in the abdomen, causing him to cough up blood, his life hanging in the balance. More than a year has passed, and Meng Ran, once timid, possessing eyes that shone with hope, is now nothing but skin and bones. His eyes are hollow like cinders, and the only person daring to plead for him is Hu Lei, the eldest among the 5 of us from that day. I faintly recall that on the journey to Qingshan mine, in that cramped carriage, it was Hu Lei's jokes and intriguing tales, heard from who knows where, that helped us pass the tedious time. Back then, they were all naive, believing they were here to mine for wages, never suspecting they had been sold into slavery. I also recognized the bald man wielding the whip. This person is Li Kui, a henchman serving Zhao Ming. Seeing Hu Lei dare to plead, Li Kui let out a sinister laugh and swung his whip fiercely toward him. Hu Lei let out a miserable shriek, a flame of rage ignited in his eyes that he could not conceal, yet he was utterly powerless to act. I stepped forward to help Meng Ran up, but unexpectedly, Hu Lei lunged at me, pushing me aside and pulling Meng Ran behind him. I was momentarily stunned, but after observing the expressions on the faces of Hu Lei and Meng Ran, I began to understand. Their eyes held a sense of hostility toward me, yet it was not the depth of a mortal blood feud, but rather a resentment directed at an unjust fate. I once possessed such a gaze myself, so it was not foreign to me. Li Kui, surprised to see me, asked, "What are you doing here?" I had no patience for idle talk and stated my purpose directly. "Take me to see Zhao Ming." "See Master Zhao? Do you really think someone of your standing can just meet Master Zhao whenever you please? Do not forget, you are also a mine slave under Zhao Gong." Everyone was confused as to what exactly had transpired, for no one else was present to escort me to see Zhao Gong. To go otherwise meant certain death. My expression remained impassive, my hand clutching another flying needle, prepared to launch it at any moment. Previously, I had silently released one, striking Li Kui's uninjured leg. This flying needle was imbued with my mana. A magical artifact launched with such clandestine technique was not something these common street thugs could hope to defend against. Though I have yet to reach adulthood, I have long since learned of the cruelty and heartlessness of this world. Thus, I too must learn how to be ruthless, to learn how to be decisive. The arrogance on Li Kui's face gradually vanished, replaced by an expression of sheer terror. Only he understood the intensity of the pain coursing through his uninjured leg at this very moment. It was as if something had pierced straight into his bone, causing an agony so unbearable it defied description. "Quickly, remove this needle, and I will take you there at once." Beads of cold sweat rolled down Li Kui's face as he collapsed to his knees, begging pathetically. Seeing this, I produced my meteor box and retracted the flying needle from his leg. Feeling the pain subside, Li Kui dared not utter another word of nonsense, hobbling ahead to lead the way. Upon entering a refined courtyard, I saw Zhao Ming gorging himself on food, his thick beard smeared with grease. A truly repulsive and nauseating sight. Even more disgusting was the fact that Zhao Ming forced a servant girl to feed him before biting down on her finger with a sinister grin. Thinking of the miners shedding blood, sweating and laboring in hardship day and night, while this man lived in such indulgence, my fury ignited in an instant. I wanted nothing more than to unleash a needle and end his life right then and there. "Li Kui, what do you think you are doing? Can't you see I am in the middle of a meal?" The moment Zhao Ming saw Li Kui, he began to curse. Li Kui had no choice but to sidestep out of the way. It was only then that Zhao Ming noticed. "It's you! What are you doing here?" "Return the contract that Yang Hu signed with you earlier." I spoke coldly, my expression devoid of emotion. Return it to you? On what grounds? Not even that painting can be snatched from my hands. A fledgling like you, whose hair has barely grown. On what grounds do you stand? Then it shall no longer be needed. My expression remained entirely impassive. With a wave of both hands, a flash of light surged forth. Before Li Gui could even cry out, several flying needles pierced his glabella. He collapsed instantly, breath forsaking him. Zhao Ming's expression shifted violently. As he grabbed the table with all his might and hurled it toward me. I did not move an inch, allowing the table to collide with me. With a deafening crash, the table shattered. Wood splinters flew in every direction. Yet I remained completely unscathed. I then brushed a stray splinter from my sleeve, flicked my wrist, and several flying needles tore through the air, striking Zhao Ming directly in the center of his forehead. Zhao Ming's pupils dilated. As he moved to dodge, his glabella was already pierced, and he fell to the ground with a heavy thud, lifeless. The handmaid screamed in terror and fled toward the courtyard, while I began a meticulous search of every room. After much effort, I finally discovered a thick stack of contracts inside a locked iron chest. I located the one signed by Yang Hu, seeing the price inscribed as 50 taels of silver for a lifetime of servitude. I let out a cold laugh, shouldered the iron chest, and returned to the mining cave, where I cast the chest directly into the center of the crowd. After a moment of silence, a man finally stepped forward, whispering that he possessed the ability to read. These are the indentures documenting your status as slaves to Zhao Ming. You will assist me in identifying each person so they may settle their own fates. As I turned to depart, a voice suddenly shrieked, "By stealing these contracts, you seek only to bring death upon us." Hearing this, I paused and cast a cold, piercing glare in his direction. A chill surged through his entire body, causing him to nearly collapse to the ground. Zhao Ming is dead. When my words settled, the crowd fell into a deathly silence, before suddenly erupting into cheers that had been suppressed for far too long. Yet at that moment, an old man suddenly appeared with several men in tow, radiating an intense murderous intent. As they drew closer, I recognized the man leading them. Jia Hua. Jia Hua's gaze was as cold as ice. He had been occupied with the funeral arrangements for Wei Zheng. Upon receiving word that Zhao Ming had been slain by a youth, he had initially dismissed it as a falsehood, but seeing me now, he could not help but believe it. Was it you who killed Zhao Ming? As Jia Hua finished speaking, a sinister glimmer flickered within his aged eyes. Having already steeled my resolve before striking, I had no desire for idle chatter, and immediately launched the flying fire needles. Jia Hua and his companions were stunned. They had not expected me to act with such decisiveness. A crisp, metallic clinking sound rang out. Jia Hua's figure flickered as he drew his longsword to deflect the needles, suffering only a minor graze on his shoulder. Seeing this, my heart tightened. I immediately realized that this Jia Hua would not be easy to overcome. Jia Hua, for his part, had been thoroughly rattled by the extreme velocity of the needles. His weathered face flushed with crimson rage as he bellowed, "Wei Zheng is audacious indeed, daring to pass down the secret projectile techniques of the inner sect to someone like you. He truly deserves to die." As he spoke, he brandished his longsword and lunged toward me, while his remaining men fanned out, quickly encircling. This caused my heart to race with mounting intensity. Facing such a predicament with no prior combat experience, my palms grew slick with cold sweat. As Jia Hua's blade thrust toward me, I instinctively leaped backward, only to feel a sudden, icy chill erupt behind me. Without a moment to deliberate, I tucked my body and rolled across the ground, narrowly evading a sneak attack from behind. It was fortunate that Elder Wei had taught me basic footwork and martial arts, which, coupled with my heightened divine sense for sensing my surroundings, proved vital. Had it been otherwise, my skull would surely have been cleaved in two. Every thought flashed through my mind in an instant, and my composure solidified. I immediately drew several more flying fire needles, infused them with my spiritual power, and unleashed them in every direction. Moments later, another wave followed in rapid succession. A series of wretched screams echoed through the air. Those who had evaded the first volley were struck down by the second. The miners watching from nearby were left utterly transfixed. None of them could have imagined that the frail, seemingly harmless youth could engage in combat with the experts of the Wu sect without falling into a disadvantageous position. Jia Hua was consumed by fury, yet he could not fathom the secret behind the projectiles in my hands. He found them utterly bizarre, hindered by their overwhelming speed. He could not conceive how a youth of little more than 10 years of age could possess such an abundant reserve of internal qi. At that very moment, another one of his men fell to the ground, his brow pierced through by one of my needles. However, the toll on my own stamina was not insignificant. I was acutely aware that the spiritual power within my body was finite. If I continued to exhaust it so recklessly, I feared I would run dry before I could secure the life of Jia Hua. I gradually steadied my breathing, eyeing Jia Hua with the cold, predatory focus of a hawk, while using my divine sense to monitor the area around me. Sensing the slightest movement within a 3 zang radius, I ceased wasting my spiritual power and relied instead on the projectile techniques I had observed from Elder Wei. I launched the needles directly toward the brows of my remaining opponents. Jiahua let out a roar, and his long sword suddenly left his hand, thrusting forward at an incredible speed toward my heart. I could only twist my body to evade, but this time, the speed was simply too great. As I turned, the blade grazed my chest, sending a spray of blood into the distance. An intense, burning pain immediately surged from my chest. I narrowed my eyes, a cold light flashing within them. I instantly withdrew 11 flying fire needles. Channeling all of my spiritual energy, I composed myself and launched them using a hidden weapon technique. It was clearly more methodical and precise than my previous attempts. Simultaneously, I exerted control over these flying needles. Among them, 5 needles followed one after another in a tight sequence. They streaked toward Jiahua, trailing one behind the other. The other 5 needles were launched toward the group that had just managed to dodge my previous strike. The final needle remained poised, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. The cultivation level of the others was clearly inferior to Jiahua's. They were struck between the brows by the lightning-fast needles, meeting their deaths almost simultaneously. Jiahua, meanwhile, retreated again and again, exhausting his full power and trump cards just to barely evade the first 4 needles. Just as he had dangerously cleared the path and narrowly dodged the 5th needle, his vision suddenly blurred, and an additional needle from where he did not know appeared before him. It instantly pierced through his glabella. His body went limp, and he collapsed to the ground, unable to rise. Looking at the corpses scattered all around, my mind felt somewhat dizzy. I then retrieved all the flying needles, and as I prepared to flee into the forest to hide, I suddenly spotted 2 ragged figures walking toward me. They were none other than Hu Lai and Meng Ran. "Brother Yang, thank you. We misunderstood you before." Hu Lai spoke in a low voice, his eyes filled with a trace of shame. Meng Ran parted her lips as if to speak, but not a single word emerged. I looked at the 2 of them and abruptly asked, "Where are Zhang Jiyu and Liu Song?" Liu Song fled, and Zhang Jiyu was killed. Regarding this, my expression remained remarkably calm, but as for the fact, I sensed that the exit was guarded by at least 6 or 7 experts. How could this Liu Song hope to escape under such circumstances? I then took some of the silver I had previously seized from Zhao Ming out of my waist pouch and divided it between the 2 of them. "The guards at the mine exit will be here shortly. We must find a way to escape." At that very moment, the miners suddenly began, one by one, to surge toward the exit with agitated emotions, causing my eyes to light up. I hurriedly spoke to Hu Lei and the other man. "Move quickly, follow them, and charge out together." I had originally intended to slip into the forest to find a place to hide, waiting for my spiritual energy to recover before attempting to break out, but seeing so many people rushing toward the mine exit and looking up to see the sky had turned dark, I knew this was a golden opportunity. Without a moment's hesitation, I merged into the crowd, practically being swept forward by the momentum of the others. "Stop right there! What are you doing? What are you all planning? Get back, all of you, or answer to me." At the mine exit, a one-eyed man raised a crossbow and bellowed at the surging crowd. The miners, already fired up with adrenaline, grew even more enraged upon hearing his insults. With the exit right before their eyes, they no longer cared for the consequences. The crowd did not slow down, instead rushing toward the exit with even greater ferocity. "So you seek death? Then I shall grant your wish." The one-eyed man unleashed his crossbow, and as the bolts flew in rapid succession, the miners at the front fell to the ground, convulsing endlessly. "One man cannot stop us all. Charge forward together." Just then, someone in the crowd shouted, and having reached the front of the pack, took advantage of the chaos to fling a throwing needle toward the one-eyed man. The one-eyed man's remaining good eye suddenly felt a piercing pain, and he cast aside his repeating crossbow, clutching his eye with both hands as he let out a miserable shriek. The miners were immensely emboldened and continued to press forward, quickly breaking through the barricade and reaching the main road. Afterward, I traveled through the forest for a long time, only letting out a sigh of relief once I was certain there were no pursuers. I found a secluded location and waited for my spiritual energy to fully recover. I did not rush to leave, choosing instead to continue my cultivation for over half a month. Only then did I emerge from the depths of the forest. Following the main road toward the Wanglong mountain range, it took more than half a month to reach Banshi town, located at the foot of Wanglong mountain. This town is under the jurisdiction of my small village, Yangzhuang, but I discovered that a wanted notice for me was posted here as well, which immediately put me on high alert. If Yang Hu were to learn of this, how would he react? I let out a cold snort in my heart. For the time being, I decided to ignore Yang Hu, bought some dry rations, and waited until nightfall to venture into Wanglong mountain. Relying on my memory, I returned to the cliffside cave dwelling. Everything inside the cave remained the same, save for the 7-leaf flower herb, which had completely withered. In the mountains, time loses its meaning, and indifferent to the affairs of the world. I focused solely on cultivation, replanting the roots of the 9-leaf mojang fruit into the refurbished nursery, carefully tending to them daily, while dedicating all my remaining time to practicing the Ziyuan technique. One day, while halfway through my practice, I suddenly opened my eyes. I had been stuck at the peak of the second level of qi refining for over a month, and no matter how hard I tried, I could not break through to the third level of qi refining. It seemed that continuing to cultivate in this manner would yield very little result. The alchemist's notes clearly stated that the Bazhen pill must only be consumed upon reaching the third level of qi refining. Otherwise, there would be a risk of bodily explosion. Yet, I remained trapped at the peak of the second level of qi refining, unable to make any progress. I must be incredibly close to the third level of qi refining now. By risking the consumption of one pill, perhaps there would be a chance for a breakthrough. As the medicinal energy entered my body, a massive surge of spiritual energy suddenly erupted. In an instant, the meridians throughout my body suffered multiple ruptures. I hurriedly consumed a Yangyuan pill, but the situation only worsened, and blood began to trickle from the corners of my mouth. In this moment of crisis, I took a desperate measure, immediately activating the heaven and earth chaos technique. As the technique began to circulate, the look of agony on my face subsided, and black, foul-smelling impurities began to seep from the surface of my skin. I do not know how much time had passed before I returned to practicing the Ziyuan technique. My aura surged abruptly. Unexpectedly, I had smoothly bypassed the bottleneck and reached the third level of qi refining. At this moment, I could clearly feel that my hearing, vision, and sense of smell had all been heightened. Whether my eyes were open or closed, I could perceive every rustle of grass and breath of wind within a range of over 10 zang. Afterwards, I dove into the underground river to wash away all the grime from my body, leaving me feeling purified, refreshed, and invigorated. In addition to the increase of mana within my dantian, it felt as though a latent, explosive power was now contained within the muscles of my arms and legs. This distinct change after entering the third level of qi refining finally convinced me that I had become a true cultivator. After spending half a month consolidating my cultivation, I approached the nursery. The roots of the 9-leaf mojang fruit had turned a vibrant shade of green. A small, vibrant green leaf sprouted. At its base lay a tiny flower bud. I watered it with utmost care, my eyes burning with anticipation, before returning to the stone bed. I retrieved the black scroll to study it further. I could not discern the material from which this black scroll was crafted. Upon it was etched an incredibly complex topography, the very treasure map that the flower demon had spoken of earlier. The final destination of the route seemed to lie upon the water. What kind of treasure could this map lead to? I stowed the scroll away and took out the purple origin art to begin researching its accompanying spells. Very quickly, I realized why my previous attempt to cultivate the supreme profound light guiding formation had failed. It was likely due to the lack of this specific spell. Excited, I immediately sat cross-legged, took out a flying fire needle, channeled my spiritual power into it, and began to practice according to the technique. A month later, with a slight twitch of my finger, the flying fire needle in front of me darted back and forth with agility. At last, I had mastered it. The first technique I mastered was the object manipulation art. As the saying goes, once one art is understood, all others follow. I continued to successfully cultivate the heavenly eye technique and the breath concealment technique. I attempted to control multiple flying fire needles simultaneously. I reached 12 at most, but immediately felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. It seems that with my current cultivation level, I can only control 12 flying fire needles at once. Afterward, I plucked a new leaf from the 9-leaf dark sun fruit and the partially bloomed bud to consume, then began circulating the heaven and earth chaos art. After absorbing the essence completely, I could feel the strength within my muscles had grown even more profound. By the time I returned to the stone chamber, I had spent a year and a half in seclusion. During this time, my gains were immense. Yet the mysteries surrounding me only grew more numerous. I knew clearly that relying solely on my own efforts seemed increasingly insufficient. If only I could be within an immortal cultivation sect, where someone could resolve my lingering doubts. How wonderful that would be. After deep contemplation, I ultimately decided to depart. Upon leaving Wanglong Mountain, I headed straight for Yang Village. This time, I would finally be able to avenge my grandfather. Having been away for 3 years, Yang Village appeared to have changed very little. Since my grandfather's passing, I could no longer feel a shred of warmth in this place. Seeking to avoid unnecessary attention, I waited until nightfall to silently enter the familiar courtyard. As soon as I stepped into the dirt yard, Yang Hu's dog opened its mouth to bark, but I struck it down with a single kick. Before it could even utter a whimper, it lay motionless on the ground. I approached the window of Yang Hu's house. The 3 members of the family were inside, sharing a meal. Yang Hu's son was busy picking out the finest pieces of meat. Yang Hu was growing fatter by the day. I looked at Yang Hu's son, and for a fleeting moment, the flying needle in my hand faltered. But immediately, The memory of the old man being silently murdered by Yang Hu flooded my mind. My gaze turned icy. The flying needle slipped through the window, piercing straight into Yang Hu's heart. Simultaneously, I clenched my hand, causing the needle to spin violently within his chest, and with a flick of my wrist I withdrew it. Yang Hu suddenly looked toward the window, his face etched with shock and terror. He died on the spot before he could utter a single word. In the past, I had always thought that if I ever gained the power to seek vengeance, I would torment and humiliate him to his face. Yet when that day finally arrived, I realized those former desires no longer held any significance. I found that I couldn't even be bothered to meet him in person. Panic-stricken screams and the sound of overturning furniture erupted from the room. I turned silently and departed from that place. I then made my way to the old man's grave outside the village. I bowed several times before vanishing into the haze of the moonlit night. I had resolved to seek out a cultivation sect and embark upon the true path of immortality. Every day, I bathed in a vat of lethal poisons, containing not only vast amounts of sulfur, saltpeter, and immortal ore, but also the 5-poison golden cicada. A normal person would have their soul scattered to the winds within 3 seconds of contact, yet I found the experience incredibly invigorating. This was because I had fortuitously obtained an immortal's secret treasure, the chaos heaven-earth art. Each time I submerged myself, I was able to absorb the toxins. I used them to temper my physical body. Relying on this ironclad physique, I not only escaped the black mine that had imprisoned me for years, but I also successfully avenged the blood feud of the old man. However, upon returning to the town after my vengeance was complete, I discovered that wanted posters for my arrest were plastered across every alley and street corner. It appeared that this trouble could not be avoided. If the Wu sect wants my head, then so be it. I am currently in need of a stepping stone to enter the cultivation world. Before Elder Wei perished, he instructed me to deliver a letter to the eldest daughter of the Wu sect. Although the old man had always used me, he was, in a way, like a mentor to me. To find a reputable cultivation sect, I decided to pay the Wu sect a visit to investigate. According to Elder Wei, the Wukan mountain range serves as the western barrier of Mora Prefecture, Jiang State. Passing out of the Wukan mountain range and heading straight west lies a vast, boundless desert. The Wu sect resides near the Wukan mountain range, right beside a sinister, obsidian-colored swamp. That afternoon, as I sat cross-legged on a blue boulder to cultivate, I suddenly heard the hurried sound of a horse-drawn carriage approaching on the forest path nearby. Who dares to obstruct the carriage of our young mistress? Are you tired of living? I had no desire to involve myself in such meddlesome affairs. I stood up, intending to depart. Open your dog eyes and look clearly. This is the carriage of the Wu sect. If you do not wish to perish, then be gone at once. Upon hearing the mention of the Wu sect, my heart stirred slightly. I stopped in my tracks and quickly concealed myself within the bushes, peering toward the small path. At this moment, a luxurious carriage sat in the middle of the road. A beautiful middle-aged woman was seated inside, holding a long whip within her grasp. Surrounding the carriage were more than 10 masked men dressed in green, their hands gripping long sabers as they encircled the vehicle. The leader, a man of tall stature, remained entirely unfazed by the woman's words, waving his hand to signal his subordinates to attack. Immediately, they all stomped their feet in unison, charging forward to slash their blades toward the woman and the carriage cabin. A series of metallic clashes rang out. Half of the green-clad men instantly shrieked and tumbled to the ground. The long sabers of the remaining men had struck the carriage cabin. The cabin shattered, and a young woman in red, her face veiled, soared out, landing gracefully upon the ground with a light tap of her feet. Though the sky had already darkened, I could still see clearly. The young woman possessed a tall, slender figure. Though her features remained obscured, the youthful aura she exuded indicated her age. Could she be the eldest daughter of the Wu sect? Wu Qingxuan. Young mistress, are you unharmed? I am unharmed. The martial arts of these individuals are unfathomable, and they are particularly well prepared against hidden weapons. We must be extremely cautious. Before the woman in red could finish her sentence, she suddenly cried out, her eyes darting toward the figure behind her. Rong Yi, why have you? The woman in red clutched her bleeding waist, her voice filled with shock and disbelief. I too was left momentarily stunned by this sudden turn of events. Just moments ago, that middle-aged woman had abruptly drawn a dagger. Fortunately, the young woman had reacted with haste, narrowly evading the strike. Had she not, the woman in red surely would have perished on the spot, as expected of the favored daughter of heaven from our Wu sect. To survive such a strike at such close range, you truly do not die easily. The man who spoke was the masked leader in green. Finishing his sentence, he slowly walked to the side of the middle-aged woman and stood still. Hidden within the thicket, I witnessed everything, a chilling sensation creeping through my entire body. From that cunning old man Zhao Ming to these individuals before me, every member of the Wu sect is deeply treacherous. It is truly disheartening. Enough is enough. It would be better to avoid this Wu sect entirely. The Ziyuan manual has 12 stages. I shall cultivate in seclusion while slowly searching for a celestial sect. With that thought settled, I prepared myself to slip away unnoticed. Zhao Chu, I never imagined you would go as far as to bribe Rong Di. Impressive. Truly impressive. Hearing this, the body I had just turned to leave suddenly froze. This man is Zhao Chu, the son of Zhao Ming? This coincidence is far too convenient. The woman in red clutched her bleeding waist, her voice filled with astonishment and disbelief. Even I was momentarily stunned by this sudden turn of events. Just a moment ago, that beautiful woman had abruptly drawn a dagger. Fortunately, the girl in red reacted quickly, dodging just enough to suffer only a grazing wound. Had she been any slower, the woman in red would undoubtedly have perished on the spot. As expected of a favored daughter of our Wu sect, to survive such a strike at this range is no small feat. The speaker was the masked man in green, leading the group. After speaking, he slowly walked to the side of the beautiful woman and came to a halt. Hiding in the brush, I watched it all, feeling a cold shiver run down my spine. From the wily old man Zhao Ming to these people here, the disciples of the Wu sect are all deeply calculating. It is a truly chilling prospect. Forget it. It would be better to steer clear of this Wu sect. The Ziyuan manual has 12 stages. I will continue my cultivation while steadily searching for a celestial sect. With this conclusion, I prepared to steal away into the shadows. Zhao Chu, I never imagined you would bribe even Rong Di. Impressive. Truly impressive. Hearing these words, my body, already in the midst of turning, went rigid. This man is Zhao Chu, the son of Zhao Ming. This is far too coincidental. Realizing his identity was exposed, Zhao Chu tore off his face mask, revealing his true features. I looked closely. Indeed, he bore a striking resemblance to Zhao Ming. Qing Quan, why not be obedient and hand over the Wu sect token to Zhao Ju? For the sake of our past, we might still be persuaded to spare your life. Rong Di, I have always believed I treated you well over the years. Why would you collude with this scoundrel? Do not blame me. There are matters you simply do not understand. As she spoke, the beautiful woman glanced at Zhao Chu, a faint flush appearing on her face. In the darkness of the night, Wu Qingquan could not see it. Yet, these matters are of no consequence. If Zhao Quan has appeared, then tonight, all of these people must die. Who goes there? With a stoic expression, I stepped directly out from the thicket. Without wasting words, I manipulated my flying needles to hover before me. With a single flick of my finger, gasps of astonishment echoed simultaneously. A cultivator. Before the words had even faded, 12 flying needles had already pierced the hearts of the 12 men in green. Aside from Zhao Quan, the men in green fell to the ground without a sound. Wu Qingquan. Once the shock registered on the faces of Zhao Quan and the beautiful woman, they immediately scattered in 3 different directions to flee. They were top-tier martial artists of the Jianghu in disguise. Yet when faced with a true cultivator, they possessed only fear and terror. The reaction of these 3 left me momentarily stunned, but I quickly steered the flying fire needles to pursue Zhao Quan. Seeing the strange, lethal trajectory of the flying fire needles, the beautiful woman immediately shrieked, "Immortal master! You cannot kill him. He is a fairy seedling. He is the fairy seedling of Wulong Valley. If you kill him, Wulong Valley will never forgive you." Upon hearing the mention of the word fairy, my heart stirred. I flicked my finger, and the flying fire needles instantly came to a halt behind Zhao Kuai's neck. "He is no fairy seedling. He lacks the Wu Gate token," came the indignant and scornful voice of Wu Qingquan. "Qingquan, my dear eldest miss, why must you be this way? You lack the root of immortality. What use is holding on to the Wu Gate token? It would be better to give it to little Quan. Once he enters Wulong Valley, both you and I could ascend to greatness in a single step. Wu Gate would also officially become the #1 sect in the Jianghu. You killed my father. Even if I die, I will never surrender the Wu Gate token to him." As she finished speaking, her voice gradually weakened, as if her wounds were growing increasingly severe. "Senior sister, the sect master's death was an accident. It had nothing to do with me." Zhao Kuai attempted to justify his actions at this moment. Listening to this gave me a headache. Regarding the grievances of these people, I naturally had no interest. But I was concerned about the Jua, fairy seedling. Since I had already held my hand, it was convenient to ask a few questions while I was at it. "Come here, all of you. I have questions that require answers. I ask you, Wu Gate has a bounty out for Yang Fan. What exactly is the meaning of this order?" "Yang Fan? Which Yang Fan?" "Great Miss Wu, you tell me." "It was an order decreed by the late sect master. I am merely a subordinate, and do not know the details." "He is lying. It was he who interfered with the investigation, and the warrant for my arrest was issued by him and his disciple." "Zhao Quan, what do you have to say for yourself? You are slandering me. I have no acquaintance with Yang Fan." "No acquaintance? Then what about the Ming dynasty? You surely recognize that name, do you not?" "It matters not. I have already deduced the truth. To question you further is merely a waste of my time." Upon hearing this, Zhao Kuai felt a momentary sense of relief, but before his joy could take root, he felt a sharp, piercing pain between his brows. Shortly after, a foreign surge of energy seized control of his consciousness. You are finished. You are truly finished. You have slain Xian Miao. The Oolong Valley will never forgive you for this. Then you shall descend into the afterlife to keep him company. I have rid you of your tormentor. Now tell me in detail about the Oolong Command, the immortal root, and Xian Miao. Are you going to kill me? Do you truly believe I would not dare to take your life? It is not that. You are an immortal master. And to you, mortals are no different from mere ants. I have already been struck by a potent poison. And now, having been gravely wounded by someone I once trusted, that dagger was coated in toxins as well. I do not have much time left. Since I am only waiting for death, it would be far better to meet my end swiftly at your hands. Her voice was laden with exhaustion and helplessness, tinged with a deep sense of resentment. I knew she was speaking the truth. After a moment of contemplation, I chuckled and said, "Do you know, had it not been for that arrest warrant, I might have long since become a disciple of Onamo." I then retrieved a letter from within my robes. Qingxuan quickly accepted it, lit a torch, and opened it to read. She stood frozen in place for a long time. After a great while, she softly remarked, "The O sect has missed an opportunity to dominate the martial world, and perhaps even an opportunity to embark upon an entirely different path. That disciple of Zhao Kuan was blinded by greed, and has brought ruin upon the entire O sect. Let us speak plainly. If you surrender the O sect command to me, and explain the truth about the immortal root and Xian Miao, I can purge all the toxins from your body, and ensure your life is no longer at risk. I do not wish to squander any more time. After all, the path of immortality is what matters most." Having read Elder Wei's letter of guarantee, Qingxuan was now convinced that there were those who had colluded with foreign enemies to assassinate Elder Wei, and those whom I had struck down at the time. It is highly probable that they are the ones colluding with foreign enemies. Because of her connection to Elder Wei, she had already intended to tell me about the Oman token. Now, hearing me say that I could completely cleanse the poison from her body, she was naturally filled with overwhelming joy. Consequently, she held nothing back and recounted everything to me. Upon hearing her story, I did not go back on my word. Not only did I hand over Elder Wei's second letter, but I also gifted her a clarity pill. At that moment, I felt incredibly exhilarated. The matter of finding the immortal sect, for which I previously had no leads, had been resolved just like that. Therefore, gifting her a clarity pill, in my view, was entirely well-deserved. However, retrieving that Oman token would be somewhat troublesome. To ensure no one could obtain it, Othan Tuyen had thrown the Oman token into the Black O Dam, the forbidden ground of Oman. 2 days later, the two of us arrived at the Black O Dam. This place was blanketed in layers of rotting, withered leaves, and the stench of decay permeated the air. A pool of black water spanning over 30 zang lay in the center of this dark forest. On the surface of the water, bubbles emitted a pungent, foul odor. Othan Tuyen stopped and said, "I can only bring you this far." I nodded and walked forward alone. According to what Othan Tuyen had told me, she had previously thrown the Oman token into the swamp from a distance. With my current cultivation level and the techniques I have mastered, it seemed there was no choice but to enter the toxic water. Nevertheless, I was not acting blindly or without confidence. I had been soaking in medicinal poison baths every single day. Over the past few months, my skin and flesh had been tempered and strengthened. Although I was not yet certain of the durability of my skin, I held great faith in the heaven and earth chaos art. After all, when I first studied this technique, I had read every word and interpreted every annotation with care. Thus, I decided to test whether my body could withstand the erosion of the toxic water. Immediately, I leaned down and submerged both hands into the swamp. As my arms sank into the water, a piercing, bone-chilling cold instantly struck at my heart. It was painful, yet a surge of immense joy welled up within me. The swamp water, which Othan Tuyen regarded as terrifyingly lethal. However, to be absolutely certain, I still placed a clear heart pill under my tongue beforehand. Overcome with joy, I momentarily forgot that a woman of elegant charm was behind me, and proceeded to disrobe entirely before stepping into the pond. Wu Qingxuan, standing in the distance, saw that I made no attempt to conceal myself, was stunned for a moment, and then hurriedly shut her eyes tight. Only when she heard the sound of the water did she dare to open them again, discovering that, apart from my head, my entire body was now submerged beneath the pond's surface. Seeing that I showed no signs of being poisoned, she could not help but feel a sense of admiration. She too had once yearned to become a cultivator. But alas, she lacked a spirit root. The immortal master of Wulong Valley had stated clearly, without a spirit root, one could never hope to become a cultivator. This cruel law of heaven was immutable, and no one could ever defy it. Her heart was filled with deep resentment and reluctance, but ignoring that, I had already closed my eyes and dived to the bottom of the pond. I could clearly feel the newfound resilience of my flesh, which prevented the toxins in these waters from penetrating my body in the slightest. However, my divine sense could only extend within a range of a dozen zang. After shifting to a few different positions, I finally sensed an unusual medallion of considerable size. I quickly retrieved it and returned to the shore. As I opened my palm, I saw the character Wu engraved upon it, and a flicker of irrepressible joy surfaced on my face. With this Wulong medallion, I would finally be able to enter the cultivation sect of Wulong Valley. At that moment, Wu Qingxuan's face flushed slightly as she whispered, Shouldn't you put your clothes on first? Shouldn't you put your clothes on first? This is the immortal guide, the Wulong medallion. Take this to Wulong Valley and claim that you are the immortal seed, selected by the Wu Gate in the Wugan mountain range. And at that time, I will provide you with a letter of verification. Perceiving the shift in Wu Qingxuan's eyes, I understood that she truly lacked a spirit root and could never walk the path of a cultivator. But how exactly is a spirit root determined? The immortal emissaries at Wulong Valley carry a crystal-like sphere, and one need only touch it with their hand to judge whether or not they possess a spirit root, and even determine the elemental affinity of that root. So that is how it works. I made a mental note, preparing to test my own spirit root once I had entered Wulong Valley. Before departing, I naturally sought out Zhao Ju's master, and without a moment's hesitation, I ended his life with a single flying needle. Half a month later, I crossed the Wugan mountain range and entered a vast, boundless desert. According to the map provided by Wu Qingquan, the Wulong Valley lies hidden within this desolate, uninhabited wasteland. Although I could not fully grasp its purpose, I trusted that the map Wu Qingquan gave me was authentic. Braving the biting winds, I pressed forward for another 5 or 6 days. Just as Liu Kungku was down to the final small piece of rations, the Wulong token at my waist suddenly began to pulse with resonance. The light radiating from it was incredibly blinding. Not long after, a streak of light plummeted from the wind-swept sky ahead, straight toward me. Moments later, a beautiful woman in silver robes appeared, seated upon a massive silver gourd. She descended gracefully and landed directly in front of me. Young friend, I am Kang Yue, a disciple responsible for guiding new arrivals to Wulong Valley. Please present your Wulong token and proof of identity for inspection. Both the token and the certificate of identity were found to be in order. Follow me, and I shall take you to complete your registration. Once your status is confirmed, you shall officially be a disciple of our Wulong Valley. Then I shall have to trouble you, fairy. Suppressing the joy in my heart, I stepped onto the woman's silver gourd and soared into the heavens. After crossing the endless desert, I watched as Fairy Kang Yu produced a peculiar sheet of golden parchment. We have arrived. Follow me. Fairy Kang Yu gestured for me to step onto the stone stairs. Simultaneously, the massive gourd transformed back into a tiny, exquisite miniature. I did not see where she stowed it away. It vanished in a flash of light, leaving no trace. I followed Fairy Kang Yu to the end of the stone steps. Before my eyes, an expanse of countless verdant mountains suddenly appeared. The spiritual energy here was overflowing, and there were even massive boulders suspended mid-air. It was truly a magnificent sight. At this moment, Fairy Kang Yu retrieved the silver gourd once more. As it caught the wind, the gourd expanded instantly. We boarded it, and swiftly arrived before a grand palace. Young friend, head inside to have your immortal root assessed. Once your dwelling is assigned, we shall meet again if fate permits. Fairy Kang Yui offered me an encouraging glance and departed with a smile. I stepped into the hall and discovered many others like myself, registering for the assessment. Unsure of what kind of immortal root I possessed, I stood silently in line, my heart filled with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. Within the grand hall, a massive crystal orb hovered in the air, with an elderly man in white robes, possessing the air of a true immortal, standing solemnly behind it. Each examinee would step forward to touch the crystal sphere, which would then emit light of various colors. Afterward, the elderly man in white robes would record something into a ledger with a brush. Finally, it was my turn. I took a deep breath to steady my nerves before walking up to the crystal sphere. The elderly man in white robes asked with a calm expression, "What is your name?" "Yang Fan." "Which Yang?" "Which, Fern?" "The, Yang," from the surname Yang, and the, Fan, meaning mediocre. Place your hand on the testing sphere. Continue the assessment once more. Elder Uncle Mua, this child's spirit root is quite strange. The crystal sphere is completely unable to gauge his aptitude. I invite Elder Uncle to personally examine him. Oh? Reach out your hand. Oh? Reach out your hand. What a pity. What a shame. Truly a pity. What an utter waste. Elder Uncle Mew, I do not understand what is regrettable. This child possesses a rare mutated dual spirit root. If this spirit root had appeared in the primordial era, it would undoubtedly have been an heaven-defying aptitude. However, in this current age, resources are truly scarce. With such an aptitude, foundation establishment is effectively impossible. It has become an unfortunate trait. Then, Elder Uncle Mushe, how should we arrange for this youth? Since he arrived bearing the oolong token of our oolong valley, just accept him into the valley as usual. You see, assign him a secluded cave dwelling and some miscellaneous duties. Understood, Elder Uncle Mu. The elderly man in white robes respectfully saw the elder in green robes off, then looked at me with deep regret. Yangfan, you possess a mutated Dark Thunder dual spirit root. Even if you lacked one of these spirit roots, you could have become a core disciple of our valley. Unfortunately, you have already heard the words of Ancestor Mu. Merely because you possess an additional mutated spirit root, you have lost all hope of reaching Foundation establishment. The elderly man in white robes pondered for a moment, then handed me an identification token. From now on, you are an official disciple of our Oolong Valley, but you may only choose a deserted cave dwelling in Sunset Gorge. As for basic cultivation manuals, you may go within this jade slip. The items you are entitled to claim and the menial tasks you must complete each month are recorded. I silently reached out to accept it. Ever since the elder in green robes spoke those words, I had fallen into a heavy silence, not uttering a single word. The statement that my life would hold no hope for Foundation establishment struck me with great force, leaving my heart burdened with heaviness. Although I did not yet fully grasp the implications, I had vaguely begun to understand something of my situation. After leaving the main hall, others guided me and several newly inducted disciples to collect our belongings, then brought me to Sunset Gorge. A sense of desolation washed over me. Sunset Gorge is the most remote location within the Oolong Valley sect, and also the place where spiritual energy is most scarce. Upon entering Sunset Gorge, I discovered it was deathly quiet. Not even the song of a single bird could be heard. Yet, after collecting those few items earlier, my mood had improved significantly. I had already come to terms with the matter of my aptitude. At the very least, I felt that my current path of cultivation held no major flaws, and therefore, I did not intend to collect the basic cultivation manuals. Furthermore, my stay at Sunset Gorge was only a temporary measure. The Jade Slip stated that, as long as one completes enough menial tasks, gains a sufficient amount of sect contribution points, or reaches the 9th level of Qi refining, one can leave this place and proceed to Long Sea Mountain to establish a cultivation cave. Shortly after, I quickly found an uninhabited courtyard nestled between the mountains and a stream. On the plaque hanging above the entrance were 3 characters: Wangxi, abode. It seemed this was the name of the residence. After some cleaning, the entire courtyard looked as good as new. In the front yard, there was a patch of abandoned land intended for medicinal herbs. According to the Jade Slip, one may choose to cultivate medicinal herbs as a menial task, but one must first register at the sect's Beiji Hall to collect seeds. Thereafter, by submitting the matured herbs corresponding to the seeds every half year, one can earn a certain amount of contribution points. However, if the minimum quantity required for submission is not met, one must submit double the amount next time, or have previous contribution points deducted. Having memorized the notes on alchemy and possessing the Chaos Heaven and Earth cultivation technique, I naturally chose the medicinal herb patch without the slightest hesitation. Afterward, I returned to my bedroom and retrieved each item I had collected earlier. The names and functions of all the items were clearly recorded in the Jade Slip. A standard low-grade storage bag, a low-grade longsword as a Dharma treasure, a low-grade flying Dharma treasure for night travel, and a set of tools for daily refining. I quickly grew accustomed to the use of the storage bag. I channeled a sliver of magic power into it, focusing on an object, and witnessed the mouth of the bag emit a faint, shimmering light. The item then shrank in size, and was drawn into the storage bag. After testing it several times, my interest soon faded. I then began to contemplate how I should proceed with my future cultivation. Feeling a profound lack of knowledge, I decided to head to the sect's library to spend the next 10 or 15 days studying before taking further action. In truth, what I sought to clarify most was the nature of my mutated spiritual roots. After a brief rest, I departed, intending to head straight for the library pavilion. However, upon stepping out of the courtyard and gazing at the mist-shrouded peaks surrounding me, I realized I had been a bit too hasty. The deacon brother who brought me here previously had traveled via a flying Dharma artifact. It seemed that to reach the sect's library, I would first need to learn how to control a flying Dharma artifact. Immediately, I channeled my spiritual power into the storage bag and, with a flick of my divine sense, retrieved it. This nocturnal flying artifact was not large, only enough for one person. But as spiritual power flowed into it, the artifact slowly hovered at my feet. I carefully stepped onto it and performed a simple object manipulation technique. It shuddered, then began to move, rising into the air. My body suddenly tipped, and in a panic, I rushed to lower my center of gravity. I spread my legs to steady myself, and once I felt secure, I increased the flow of spiritual power, guiding it to fly slowly forward. After practicing for an entire hour, I finally felt that I had mastered it. By now, night had fallen. Although I had learned to control the flying artifact, I discovered that due to my insufficient spiritual power, I could not make the artifact fly at any significant speed. Furthermore, my stomach began to growl with hunger. Thus, I retracted the flying artifact, returned to the courtyard, and consumed my last remaining piece of dried cake with some plain water. I then broke the soil in the abandoned herb garden and moved a small portion of the earth to the back of the courtyard, near the cliffside. There, I fashioned a small nursery, replanting the roots of the 9-leaf demonic fruit. It would be ideal if I could obtain some spiritual liquid or spiritual soil. Once I finished cleaning up, I returned to my room, sat cross-legged on the bed, and retrieved a white jade bottle, the very same bottle containing the 8 treasures pills. Originally, there were 19 pills in total. I had consumed one when breaking through to the second level of qi refining, leaving 18 remaining. Without hesitation, I consumed another pill, then immediately circulated the origin mantra to begin my cultivation. I practiced until dawn, not sleeping for the entire night, feeling the surge of spiritual power within my body once more. I could not help but become increasingly enamored with the efficacy of the 8 treasures pills. The medicinal formulas and the preparation steps for the 8 treasures pill are all contained within the alchemy records. Thus, I have decided that moving forward, alongside my cultivation, I must begin the study of alchemy. Otherwise, once the 8 treasures pills are exhausted, I will have no further elixirs to accelerate my cultivation progress. I continued my cultivation until the middle of the day. Once the medicinal power was nearly fully refined, I mounted my flying artifact and drifted slowly toward the central grand hall. Relying on this snail-like pace, it took nearly 4 hours to reach the sect's central hall. Here, there are numerous auxiliary buildings, such as the library pavilion, the scripture hall, and others. I did not rush to the library pavilion, choosing instead to head toward the nearby Baiji Hall to register for odd jobs. I collected 100 portions of Boyu Huang seeds. This meant that in half a year, I would simply need to submit 100 mature Boyu Huang plants to receive the corresponding contribution points. The reason I chose the Boyu Huang is because this common medicinal herb is used for stopping bleeding. Firstly, it is easy to cultivate. Secondly, it grows with remarkable density. If planted alongside the 9-leaf yang fruit, it serves as an excellent natural shield. After obtaining the seeds, I proceeded to the library pavilion and stepped inside. A gaunt, middle-aged cultivator sat leisurely upon a wide chair. Seeing me enter, his eyes briefly brightened. "Have you come seeking a cultivation manual? Or perhaps you seek medicinal formulas? Then you must be searching for offensive techniques." Having heard my replies, the middle-aged cultivator surmised that I was merely another green disciple. Lately, there has been no shortage of such disciples. Those who frequent the library pavilion are often novices to the immortal path, ignorant of the basics, and desperate for common knowledge. He had encountered many disciples of this sort and, knowing they possessed little potential, he immediately lost interest. He gestured carelessly toward one side and muttered, "Enter through that door. The books inside may be read freely." I thanked him and immediately went inside, where I discovered many disciples were already present, yet everyone remained silent. It seemed no one dared to speak above a whisper. I carefully surveyed the area and decided to begin reading from one side of the bookshelves. Time drifted by as I buried myself in my studies, until my stomach rumbled, startling me back to awareness. Returning to reality from the depths of the texts, I suddenly remembered I had one final grain-avoiding pill, which I promptly consumed, before immersing myself once more in the archives. More than 10 days passed in the blink of an eye, and only then did I stand up with a grave expression, slowly close. For nearly half a month, I have absorbed a vast amount of cultivation knowledge I had never before encountered, particularly from a book tucked away in the corner, covered in layers of dust. It was a nondescript manual with yellowed, weathered pages. Yet, it held the very explanation I sought regarding my variant spirit roots. Upon finishing the text, a heavy weight settled upon my heart. Regardless of whether it was in the ancient eras or the current age of cultivation, the vast majority of cultivators possess one or more of the 5 elemental spirit roots. It is a rare occurrence indeed to find someone born with variant spirit roots. While elemental roots are common, variant roots are rare. And a dual variant spirit root is rarer still. For a cultivator with dual variant spirit roots, the very nature of their foundation makes the process of foundation establishment incredibly difficult. In the ancient eras, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was dense, and heavenly treasures could be found everywhere. Back then, those with dual variant spirit roots were considered the chosen of the heavens. Such cultivators were granted the opportunity to bathe in the grace of heaven. Having successfully established their foundation through this grace, they would far surpass their peers in strength when forming their core or nascent soul. But in this current era, resources are far too scarce, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is significantly thinner than in the ancient past. The grace of heaven has been absent for countless years. Thus, modern cultivators with dual variant spirit roots have no way to receive such a blessing. During the foundation establishment process, the 2 variant spirit roots inflict an incredible, mutual attrition upon one another. This renders the path to foundation establishment 10,000 times more difficult than that of an ordinary cultivator. With such insurmountable difficulty, success is virtually impossible, leading these roots to be branded as a cursed quality in the present age. As for what exactly the grace of heaven was, almost no cultivator in this day and age possesses any knowledge of it. Fortunately, I have learned that common spirit roots consist of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Variant roots are more diverse, including attributes such as wind, lightning, darkness, light, and poison. Knowing one's attribute allows for the selection of compatible cultivation manuals. I have discovered that I possess dual variant dark and lightning roots, so would it not be more appropriate to cultivate techniques aligned with these attributes? I know not the nature of the Ziyuan art, or the heaven and earth chaos art. My heart is filled with confusion and a lingering sense of apprehension, but I quickly shook my head. Let it be. As long as I can cultivate normally, that is enough. After half a month of frantic reading, I have come to realize that cultivation is a profoundly deep and intricate discipline. To understand every facet of cultivation in one sitting is impossible. I must remain calm and study it gradually. With that thought, I stood up and departed from the library pavilion. I am now certain of the path I must take to continue my training. I shall focus all my efforts on reaching the 12th level of qi condensation, then seek a way to obtain a foundation establishment pill to attempt my breakthrough. As for this matter of Tian-En, I can only take it one step at a time. Afterward, I headed to the teaching pavilion to seek out senior brother Situ. He is a youth at the 12th layer of qi refining, responsible for instructing new disciples in the use of spells. Recently, quite a number of new disciples have entered the sect. Senior brother Situ was in the midst of a lecture. I quietly slipped inside, sat cross-legged, and listened in silence. This senior brother Situ possessed a truly profound understanding of foundational techniques. Hearing his explanation provided me with an entirely new perspective on the wind riding art and the ice arrow technique, both of which had long troubled me. It even offered deeper insights into the manipulation of objects, as well as the heaven eye technique. Once senior brother Situ finished his lecture, I hurriedly and humbly stepped forward to inquire about various other issues. To my surprise, he was remarkably amiable, answering my many questions with great patience and without a hint of annoyance. For instance, I only then learned that the golden paper threads utilized previously by Fairy Chengyu were, in fact, talismans. These can be purchased at designated locations within the sect or at the marketplace. However, procuring such items requires the use of spirit stones, and regrettably, I had never even laid eyes on one. Yet, I did not feel discouraged. On the contrary, I felt more invigorated than ever. Having gathered several methods for earning spirit stones from senior brother Situ, I boarded my flying magic tool and returned to Wangxi residence. I then proceeded to sow seeds of the nephrite imperial grass in the herb garden in the front courtyard, and planted further seeds in the nursery in the back courtyard. Only then did I return to my quarters to consolidate and digest all the information I had acquired. After a restful sleep, to rejuvenate my spirit, I visited a nearby mountain to gather some wild fruits to appease my hunger. Following that, I located a small quantity of wild barley and brought it to the remaining empty plot in the herb garden. I began to practice the ice arrow technique, yet even after several days, I could not master it. After much contemplation, I decisively consumed a 8 true elixir and began to focus my full strength on cultivating the purple origin art. Half a year later, having exhausted the entire efficacy of the 8 true elixirs, I successfully entered the qi refining stage. Having tasted the rewards of utilizing medicinal elixirs over the past 6 months, my cultivation progressed with frantic speed. I discovered that I could no longer endure the stagnation of relying solely on the absorption of spiritual energy to cultivate. Therefore, after the 8 true elixir was depleted, I continued my training for another half-month. In the end, it became truly unbearable. I was forced to conclude my session and walked over to the herb fields, where I took the wild barley that had just ripened and ground it into flour. I prepared a bowl of scallion noodles, a simple meal I had not tasted in quite some time. Fully satiated, I reclined upon a rattan chair in the courtyard, watching the murmuring stream before me and the distant glow of the setting sun. The nervous tension I had endured for the past half-year finally dissolved, and for a fleeting moment, I felt as free and unburdened as an immortal. Amidst this profound comfort, my mind began to subconsciously drift into the deduction of cultivation techniques. Gradually, I seemed to sink into a mystical, dreamlike state. I know not how much time had passed when I felt a biting chill at my fingertip, jolting me awake from my reverie. Staring at the ice, sharp as an arrow, resting upon my finger, my heart surged with intense excitement. Having achieved a breakthrough to the 4th level of qi refining, I had finally succeeded in mastering the ice arrow technique. Without delay, I made my way to a nearby mountain, took aim, and unleashed the ice arrow from my fingertip. With several sharp, crisp sounds, the ice arrows embedded themselves deep into the sturdy trunk of a tree. Furthermore, Where the ice arrow struck, the bark showed clear signs of being corroded by a biting frost. The execution of this ice arrow technique consumes very little spiritual energy. It is as efficient as it is swift. Moreover, according to the incantations of this technique, it also possesses the ability to suppress fire element spells. My mood was lifted significantly. Returning to Wangji residence, I harvested all 100 stalks of Puyu Huang and flew toward the Baiji Hall. The elder in charge of inspections at Baiji Hall, after confirming that the herbs I submitted were without fault, spoke. Do you desire contribution points, or would you prefer spirit stones? Is it possible to exchange them for spirit stones? That is correct. 1 contribution point can be exchanged for 1 low-grade spirit stone. In that case, my batch of Puyu Huang is worth 6 contribution points. I will take the spirit stones. Upon hearing this, the elder tossed 6 low-grade spirit stones my way before returning to his own affairs. I stared at the small, glowing stones brimming with spiritual energy, unable to suppress a sense of joy and curiosity. So, these are spirit stones? The spiritual energy contained within them is indeed incredibly pure. After stowing the spirit stones away, I decided to take a stroll through the marketplace, hoping to see if I could purchase the medicinal ingredients required to refine Bazen pills. Yet after a single lap, I realized that I was truly a pauper. The countless items on display in the marketplace filled me with both. In the end, I could not purchase anything, but it could be considered an eye-opening experience. Furthermore, I took note of this Yunzu market. Although there is a vast array of artifacts and diverse materials, medicinal herbs are extremely scarce, not to mention finished medicinal elixirs. Afterwards, I wandered until late in the evening, familiarizing myself with the general pricing of various materials and artifacts. For instance, the low-grade longsword I received upon entering the sect is worth 9 low-grade spirit stones. This type of low-grade artifact usually costs around 10 low-grade spirit stones. Mid- and high-grade types range from 30 to 1,200. But peak-grade artifacts are significantly more expensive, requiring several hundred low-grade spirit stones, and complete sets can even cost thousands to acquire. This also helped me form a preliminary assessment of my Flying Fire Meteor set, which is the peak-grade artifact set mentioned in that jade slip. It must be worth at least 3,000 to 5,000 low-grade spirit stones, yet when I think of the materials that left me yearning but unable to buy, I cannot help but feel quite disappointed, especially the pill furnace and the medicinal herbs needed to refine the Bazen pill. They weigh heavily on my mind. I visited the small workshop and inquired. A decent quality pill furnace costs nearly 40 low-grade spirit stones, whereas the Pu Jade rice I have spent half a year cultivating only earns me 6 stones. Calculated this way, I wouldn't be able to afford one even in 3 years. Clearly, relying on this method is not sustainable. On the way back to Luoria River, I kept contemplating the ways to earn spirit stones that Senior Brother Situ had mentioned. Upon reaching a desolate mountain, I suddenly detected 2 auras approaching at high speed from behind, 1 male and 1 female. 2 masked cultivators flew ahead, blocking my path. I hurriedly activated my Heaven's Eye technique, vaguely sensing that both of them were at the 6th layer of chi refining. I reached into my sleeve, gripping 2 flying fire needles tightly. Dear senior brother and sister, what is the meaning of this? Do not be afraid, little junior brother. We noticed you wandering the market all day without buying anything, and assumed you must be very short on spirit stones. We have a method to earn spirit stones quickly and would like to invite you to join us. What do you think? They wear masks to invite me to earn money. Do they take me for a fool? What is this method? If you wish to earn, hand over 10 spirit stones each to us as an entry fee first. Once you have joined, we will naturally tell you. Very well, I will pay. But before the words could finish, 2 beams of black light shot toward the space between their brows. Simultaneously, the artifact beneath my feet accelerated, and I began to flee. In the blink of an eye, the man and the woman drew their magical artifacts, parrying the 2 flying fire needles. They were courting death. I glanced back, well aware that both my speed and magic power were inferior to my opponents, and decisively retracted my artifact, plummeting like a falling stone, diving into the dark, dense forest below. Junior brother, this fellow's magical artifact is quite rare and slightly superior to most. Once we have the goods, let us depart quickly. Junior sister, there is no need to worry. This brat is impoverished and unremarkable. One glance is enough to tell he has no significant background. Even if we kill him, no one will ever know. Having spoken, he dived into the forest to block my path, perhaps wondering if I intended to flee toward my fellow sect members. He extended his hand, a fireball dancing within his palm. I looked up at the female cultivator still in the air with an expressionless face, my eyelids twitching slightly. At that exact moment, the male cultivator let out a cold snort and hurled the fireball in his hand with vicious intent. I had no time to dodge, and in my haste, I cast an ice arrow technique, launching it toward the incoming fireball. Ice and fire collided, emitting a strange, jarring sound. Although it did not fully neutralize the fireball, It bought me just enough time to evade. The ground behind the male cultivator suddenly erupted, and over 20 flying needles shot out from beneath the earth, aimed directly at his vital points. The male cultivator's face turned deathly pale in terror, and he frantically brought out a shield to block. But because his legs were injured, his speed was significantly hampered. The very next second, several of the flying needles bypassed the shield and pierced straight through the back of his neck. A sound of unwillingness escaped the male cultivator's throat before he collapsed. As for the female cultivator in the air, after witnessing this scene with her own eyes, she was terrified to the point of losing all color in her face. She stared in horror at me as I stood amidst the pool of blood, no longer caring for the remains of her senior brother. She stepped directly onto her artifact and vanished madly into the darkness of the night. By this time, I had consumed a nourishing origin elixir, yet I dared not linger long, apart from the fluctuation in spiritual energy that might attract other cultivators. The mere fact that the female cultivator would likely summon reinforcements forced me to suppress my pain and struggle to my feet, retrieving all of my flying needles before gathering the shield and the large hammer belonging to the male cultivator. As I prepared to depart, I caught sight of the storage bag at his waist. Seeing this, I quickly moved to detach it, then threw wax against the cliff face to mask my trail, before turning back to enter the small courtyard. My nerves, which had been stretched to the breaking point, finally relaxed, and immediately thereafter, I sat cross-legged to begin healing my injuries with all my strength. At that moment, I was still gripped by fear, only then realizing that my entire back was drenched in cold sweat. It was fortunate that I had the vitality-nourishing pill. Otherwise, I surely would have lost my life this time. The wound on my chest was grave, and it took me half a month of recuperation before I could walk normally again. Lying on my rattan chair, I spent this time reflecting on every detail of that battle, summarizing my experiences and shortcomings, before once again retrieving the fragmented scroll of the chaotic heaven and earth art to continue studying its body-refining methods. 2 more months passed, and only after confirming that the female cultivator had taken no retaliatory actions did I open the male cultivator's storage bag and removed its contents. Upon discovering a jade slip inside and reading its contents, I was momentarily stunned. The jade slip marked a secret location where the spiritual energy was exceptionally dense. Within it grew rare and precious spiritual herbs that were seldom seen. If one were to harvest and sell them, they could naturally exchange them for a vast amount of spirit stones. However, this location is guarded by powerful spirit beasts, making the difficulty of entering to harvest them extremely high. Knowing this information, I crushed the jade slip directly, feeling a sense of frustration. After all, more than 2 months had already passed. If that female cultivator had found reinforcements, it was highly likely she had already defeated the spirit beasts and claimed those medicinal herbs. I then turned my attention to the other items, picking up a talisman inscribed with strange symbols in silver ink. It was a pity that I possessed no knowledge of talisman arts, nor did I know the grade of this talisman or how to utilize it. What remained were a few dozen spirit stones and a circular metal disc. The spirit stones were all of the low-grade variety. There were 56 spirit stones in total, but I had never seen this circular metal disc before. It was engraved with symbols and patterns, even more complex than those on the talisman. After studying it for half a day without success, I had no choice but to store it in my spatial bag before turning my eyes to the final item. It was a semi-transparent vial. I was no stranger to this vessel. It was designed specifically for storing medicinal seeds. Opening it, I discovered it contained seeds of the chi-refining herb, and a smile immediately spread across my face. This happened to be one of the supplementary ingredients required for refining the 8-treasure pill. Furthermore, I would not be required to turn over any herbs grown from them in the future, as they would belong entirely to me. Without hesitation, I planted them directly in my herb field, then happily ate a bowl of scallion noodles before finally departing from Wangji residence. Afterward, I disguised myself in a loose gray cloak and engaged in a fierce round of haggling with a vendor at a secluded stall. Later, I disguised myself again and traveled to a different marketplace, where I purchased a 5 elements manual for 12 low-grade spirit stones. Even then, this left him feeling deeply regretful, as he gifted me half a stack of blank talisman paper. Although it is merely a fragmented scroll, my luck has truly been exceptional. Within this fragment, I have discovered both the utility and the corresponding incantations for that silver ink talisman. This talisman is known as the Silver Armor Talisman, a fire attribute defensive spirit charm of mid-low grade, valued at approximately 10 spirit stones. Afterwards, I gritted my teeth and purchased a mid-grade, metal attribute defensive talisman with superior protective capabilities, along with several varieties of potent poisons and a collection of boxes for storing medicinal herbs. Finally, I exhausted my remaining spirit stones to purchase the secondary ingredients needed to refine the 8-treasure elixir. It was only then that I departed the marketplace and flew back to my dwelling. By referencing the refining methods found in the alchemy journals, I concocted several types of poisons capable of affecting even those in the foundation establishment stage. Subsequently, Following the teachings recorded in the old master's poison scripture, I prepared a concoction to pour into a wooden barrel, then submerged myself within it to temper my physical body. Simultaneously, I began cultivating the dozens of poison arts I had selected. Several days later, I arrived at the Grand Hall where the immortal roots were evaluated that day. Once the departure formalities were completed, I left Wulong Valley and headed toward that secret location. Along the way, I used the wind to conceal my presence, remaining extremely cautious and choosing only the most desolate paths. 7 days later, I arrived at a towering cliff, shrouded in thick, white fog. At the summit of the cliff, a massive waterfall cascaded downward. It must be here. Stepping upon my leaf-shaped magical artifact, and manifesting a protective barrier around myself, I dove directly behind the curtain of the waterfall, where there was only a narrow crevice choked with weeds. I had to turn sideways to barely squeeze through. Then, clinging to the cliff face, I inched my way deeper inside. With this place so well hidden, how on earth did those two discover it? Or perhaps they merely stumbled upon the jade slip by chance, and had never actually visited this location. Countless speculations swirled in my mind as I finally reached the innermost depths. The crevice suddenly widened, and before my eyes, thick fog billowed intensely. After confirming the path one final time, feeling the spiritual energy surrounding me, I leaped down, setting foot upon a flat expanse of land overgrown with wild grass. I groped my way forward for about 100 paces through the dense mist, desperately searching for the location of the medicinal herbs. Suddenly, I heard the voices of two people ahead. Upon hearing this, I was startled, instantly recalling the female cultivator who had departed so mysteriously. I held my breath and focused, stealthily creeping along the cliff wall as I heard, "Senior sister, are the spirit stones provided by the sect not enough? Junior sister you? This stone gate is very strange. It should have opened once enough spirit stones were provided for energy, yet I still have the feeling that something is missing. Tell me the truth, senior sister. Is there something you haven't told me yet?" Senior sister Tan Zhao, in truth, senior brother Chen, also recovered a circular metal disc at that time. Where is that disc now? It is lost. Senior brother Chen kept it. Since he went missing, the disc has also vanished. Wang Yu, why didn't you say so earlier? Do you realize how many spirit stones we have wasted over these past 2 months? Forget it. Tan Zhao suddenly felt her head spinning, and her expression shifted abruptly. Wang Yu collapsed to the ground with a thud beside her. They were unaware that I was hiding behind a large boulder nearby, holding a hollow bamboo tube, using the wind to drift colorless, odorless poison smoke toward them. This poison is potent enough to fell even a cultivator at the foundation establishment stage. My apologies. Strike first. Seeing both female cultivators succumb to the poison, a glint of malice flashed in my eyes, and I launched 2 flying needles. 2 crisp sounds of impact rang out. Despite her dizziness, Tan Zhao struggled to manifest a defensive spell, precisely blocking the needles. "Show yourself." Seeing that my sneak attack had failed, I stepped out from behind the boulder, my expression impassive. Wang Yu, lying limp on the ground, saw me, her eyes filled with sheer terror before she pointed at me and shrieked until her voice grew hoarse. It was him. He stole the item from senior brother Chen. He must have murdered him. That skill, of shifting the blame so effortlessly, is truly impressive. Tan Zhao, stunned, helped Wang Yu up. "Junior sister Yu, I have no desire for idle chatter." With a thought, 24 flying needles instantly emerged from my sleeves, hovering around me, poised for the kill. Seeing this, Tan Zhao took advantage of my distraction to swallow a detoxification pill, but her expression darkened almost immediately. The pill was ineffective. "Senior sister, kill him quickly. If we do, we can retrieve the circular disc and proceed inside." A flicker of hesitation crossed Tan Zhao's face, but in the end, she decided to strike. The profound underworld mirror in her hand glowed brilliantly as it rose into the air, emitting streams of light that shot directly toward my head. I hurriedly executed the wind control technique to evade, guiding my flying needles to strike at the small mirror. But the moment the needles touched the light, their speed plummeted. My mind raced, and I immediately withdrew the massive firecloud hammer from my storage bag, hurling it fiercely toward Tan Zhao. That is junior brother Chen's firecloud hammer. It seems 80 to 90% certain that he met his end at your hands. The light shifted, pinning the firecloud hammer in place. Suddenly, a dangerous green talisman appeared in Tan Zhao's hand. She was preparing to gamble everything by forcing its activation. Unexpectedly, her body shuddered, her mana stagnated, and the toxins in her system surged in severity. "Senior sister Tan Zhao, hurry! The spirit stone energy powering the stone gate is about to run out." I turned to look, and indeed, the radiant light upon the stone gate had begun to wane rapidly. I felt a surge of anxiety. I did not have enough spirit stones to replenish the energy myself. "Fellow Taoists, how about we call a temporary truce and join forces to open this stone gate first? You must be aware that precious elixirs are hidden here. If we open the gate, we can simply rely on our own abilities to seize them." Her spirit stones were nearly exhausted. Even if I agreed, I would not be able to enter. Furthermore, the talisman in her hand was undoubtedly her trump card. I immediately retracted my fire cloud all, stepped before the stone gate, and produced a circular metal formation plate. A strange beam of light erupted from the disc, striking the center of the stone gate. With a series of deafening roars, the heavy stone gate finally began to creak open. Senior Sister Tan Zhao, the gate is open! Quickly, kill him and avenge Senior Brother Tran. I gave her no chance to say more. With one hand, I retrieved the metal plate, transformed into a blurred shadow, and dove deep into the entrance. After the three of us entered, the stone gate slammed shut with a thunderous boom. Within the secret realm, the ambient spiritual energy was incredibly dense, yet flight artifacts were rendered entirely useless. I had no choice but to take the lead on foot, weaving through the towering, ancient trees. To my astonishment, I discovered a field of half-wind grass, the primary ingredient for refining the 8 treasures elixir. Just as I reached out to harvest it, a jade-green snake, swift as a lightning bolt, lunged from the grass. I did not even blink. 2 flying needles shot forth, pinning the serpent's head firmly to the ground. Only after I had gathered several dozen stalks of half-wind grass did Tan Zhao and Wusong Guoyet arrive at the scene. Senior Sister, you truly should not have shown mercy. Tan Zhao remained silent. Both of them harbored their own hidden agendas. Fearing that I would seize all the precious medicinal herbs, they immediately accelerated toward the depths of the realm. I frantically gathered everything in sight within the secret realm, not only harvesting materials for the Yuan Dan stage, but also successfully obtaining the rare Forget Love grass, which had long been extinct in the outside world. Yet, I was still missing the final ingredient to refine the 8 treasures elixir. Moreover, the guardian beast mentioned in the jade slip has yet to appear, and the deeper I venture, the more intense my sense of foreboding becomes. Through the fog ahead, a towering stone shrine appears, more than half of which has already collapsed. I prepare to make a detour. Suddenly, a miserable shriek echoes from within the stone shrine. It is the voice of Wang Yu. I do not hesitate, turning on my heel to flee. Fellow Taoist, is that you? Quickly, come and save us. Without my help, you will never be able to leave this place. If you save the 2 of us, all the spirit herbs and medicinal plants we have gathered, including the pseudo-immortal herb here, shall all be yours. I grit my teeth, turn back, and silently make my way back to the stone shrine. With a light tap of my foot, I leap onto the crumbling wall, peering carefully into the shrine. Inside, Wang Yu's entire body is tightly bound by revolting black silk threads. She is suspended in midair, clutching the Xuanming mirror and struggling desperately against the black threads constantly spewing from above. Her arms are also on the verge of being completely bound. Fellow Taoist, look out above. Countless black silk threads, as thick as barrels, erupt from the ceiling of the shrine. A wall of black silk descends, engulfing me. The stone walls collapse with a thunderous roar. There is no way to evade. I draw the Vajra shield, and a blinding golden light envelops me, forming a protective barrier. The black threads strike the shield, producing a jarring, screeching friction. The barrier trembles, on the verge of shattering, and a black spider nearly 20 feet long descends from the shrine ceiling. Its 8 eyes glow, sharp as sword blades, bringing with them a foul, fishy stench. 2 of the spider's legs pierce through the Vajra barrier, violently driving into my shoulder and thigh. I groan in agony and swing my hand to strike the venomous spider leg. At the same time, a radiance from the Xuanming mirror envelops the creature. The spider struggles violently and, with a powerful flick, flings me against the shrine wall. I land heavily on the ground and swallow a spirit-nourishing pill. Turning my head, I spot a medicinal herb growing in the corner, emitting a strange, alluring fragrance. Atop it sits a single red fruit, rooted in a patch of top-tier spiritual soil. My eyes turn bloodshot. Disregarding the wounds on my body, I struggle to crawl forward, snatching the red fruit and swallowing it whole. The pseudo-immortal herb. You have consumed the spirit fruit. The black spider, driven into a frenzy, lunges toward me. A jade-green radiance shrouds its body, causing its movements to slow. Fellow Taoist, quickly give me the spirit-nourishing ginseng. As long as my spiritual energy does not run dry, the Xuanming mirror can certainly destroy this beast. I have no concern for such matters. The medicinal power of the spirit fruit surged violently within my body, threatening to tear my flesh apart. In a fleeting moment, my cultivation base broke through, directly shattering the peak of the 4th level of chi refining, and pushing onward. I snapped my eyes open, lunging forward like a maddened beast, pushing the chaos heaven and earth art to its absolute limit. I delivered a brutal blow, smashing my fist into the spider's carapace. Amidst the thunderous explosion, Wen Xingjiao and I instantly trapped the demon beast in a pincer formation. At that very moment, a strange, sinister light traveled along the spider silk and silently seeped into Wang Yu's forehead. Wang Yu let out a miserable shriek. Her head slumped to the side, and she fell completely unconscious. The black jade spider seemed to sense a terrifying pressure stemming from a bloodline lineage and unexpectedly abandoned its assault. retreating to the side to tremble. I seized the opportunity to wave my hand, sweeping both the remains and the bones of the top-grade spirit soil, spanning 10 feet into my storage bag. Just then, Wang Yu, who had been suspended in mid-air, slowly opened her eyes. A cold, bone-chilling aura, astonishingly sinister, erupted from her, accompanied by a grotesque laugh, and the spider silk binding her body shattered, inch by inch. This human junior's body is simply too fragile. My scalp went numb, and without a moment's hesitation, I pressed myself close to Wen Xingjiao. You are not junior sister Wang Yu. Who are you? Get out of her at once. Who am I, you ask? I can no longer remember. It has been far too long. So long that I had resigned myself to the belief that I would never return to this world. Sensing the situation had turned dire, I began to retreat toward the collapsed stone wall. So, you wish to leave already? Taking what belongs to me is not so simple. With a flick of her hand from afar, she drew the massive black jade spider toward the exit, sealing off my path of retreat. Fellow Taoists, if you can recover your magical power, can you defeat this old hag? Wen Xingjiao did not hesitate to take the medicinal pill and swallow it. Does a mere qi refining practitioner, afflicted with poison, truly intend to slay me? Yet the black jade spider did not move. Instead, it fell to the ground in agony, convulsing. The old monster has held its ground for a moment, but it has been poisoned. Very well, boy. It seems I have underestimated you. Fellow Taoists, I possess an item that will surely help us escape, but it requires a significant amount of time to execute. Do you have any means to hold off this old monster? Sister, I am only at the 4th level of qi refining. In that case, let us simply wait for death together. I grit my teeth, feeling the medicinal power of the red ghost elixir within me nearing its limit. You must hold him off. Once I achieve my breakthrough to the 5th layer of qi refining, I will have the confidence to keep him occupied while you cast your spell. I hope you do not break your word. I retreat to the corner, sitting cross-legged, concentrating all my focus on breaking through to the 5th layer of qi refining. The old monster's body surged with black bones. A massive, ferocious, ghostly head erupted forth, hungrily lunging toward Van Tinjiao. Nothing pleases this old man more than watching you struggle on the brink of life and death, only to fall into despair in the end. Van Tinjiao brandished the Xuanming mirror, emitting a brilliant crimson light that forcefully intercepted the ghostly head, causing it to dissipate. The old monster let out a cold laugh, raising both hands to chant an incantation. With a sharp sound, her 2 arms split into 4. Each hand wielded a long black blade, slashing frantically toward Van Tinjiao. Van Tinjiao released a small, icy blue shield, which transformed into an ice wall, desperately holding its ground. A moment later, the old monster became even more relentless in her assault. Van Tinjiao's face turned deathly pale as the danger mounted. Another moment passed, and she cried out, "Hurry up! I cannot hold out any longer!" Soon, another moment elapsed. Van Tinjiao had reached her absolute limit and was preparing to detonate her magical artifact to perish together with the enemy. At that very instant, from the corner of the room, a surge of incredibly powerful spiritual energy suddenly erupted. I snapped my eyes open, lunging forward like a wild beast breaking free from its cage, appearing directly in front of Van Tinjiao. You may now cast your spell with peace of mind. Regardless of what you see, do not let your concentration waver. She finally brought out that precious talisman. A talisman treasure. I have successfully pinned you down. A mere insect at the 5th layer of qi refining dares to obstruct this old man? As the words fell, a heavy black blade swung down toward my head. My gaze remained cold as my fingers flickered, instantly weaving the 36 flying fire needles into a web that firmly parried the blade. The old monster flew into a rage, chanting incantations as her 4 arms split once more, manifesting into 8. Die for me. 8 black blades descended from every direction like a meat grinder. I did not retreat, chanting the incantation to activate my silver armor. The moment the dazzling silver armor took form, the 8 streaks of blade aura crashed down with a thunderous roar. The armor held for only a single second before shattering into pieces. The remaining 4 streaks of blade aura slashed ferociously into my body. I spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, yet I poured all my remaining spiritual energy and divine sense into the 36 flying fire needles before me. As the final strike of blade aura descended, I collapsed heavily to the ground, unable to move another inch. Yet, the 36 flying needles erupted with a blinding red radiance, coalescing into a single, massive crimson needle. Emitting a roar, it struck out aggressively toward the old monster. Terrified, the old monster snatched the black jade spider, pulling it forward to serve as a shield. With a sharp sound, the needle pierced through the spider and struck the center of the old monster's chest. The black bones across the old monster's body transformed into tentacles, tightly binding the needle in a fierce, desperate struggle. At that very moment, a terrifyingly scorching aura, sufficient to incinerate all things, suddenly locked onto the old monster. What? Above the stone hall, the the phantasmal shadow of a giant firebird appeared, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. With a single dive, a torrent of flames tore through the layer of black bone, accompanied by the old monster's inhuman, agonizing shrieks. That corpse, along with the old monster's soul, was reduced to ashes in an instant. The entire stone hall fell into a deathly silence. I struggled to sit up, swallowed a restorative elixir, and vigilantly watched Wen Xingjiao, who lay slumped on the ground, her spiritual power completely exhausted. An hour later, I reluctantly stood up, intending to leave quietly. "Stop right there!" I silently gripped my last flying needle, my expression remaining unchanged. "Is there something you need, fellow Taoist? Hand that circular metal disc over to me. This object does not belong to you." I suppressed my anger and let out a cold laugh, calmly recounting how Chen Wang and Wang Yu had attempted to rob me, only to be slain in return. Upon hearing this, Wen Xingjiao's face filled with disbelief. She stepped forward to inspect my identification token and stood frozen in place for a long time. "When I called for help earlier, I made you a promise, and furthermore, you contributed to the slaying of that demonic cultivator. Since that is the case, I shall temporarily refrain from pursuing the matter of junior brother Chen. However, once that circular metal disc brings us out of this place, it must be handed over to the sect." Having reached an agreement, I dragged my heavily wounded body and quickly departed from the stone hall, continuing to harvest medicinal herbs. 2 days later, I arrived at the stone gate, where Wen Xingjiao was already waiting. Seeing me arrive, she placed a spirit stone into the crevice and reached out to retrieve the circular metal disc from the waterfall on the cliff wall. She wished to return to the sect with me to submit a report. I was concerned about my medicinal herbs being discovered, and even more fearful that the secret of the spirit soil would be exposed and invite further plunder. "Senior sister, since the disc has been given to you, you may return and report it yourself. But I hope you will not mention me. I, too, shall keep the events that transpired here a secret." Wen Xingjiao looked deep into my eyes, understanding that I wished to avoid unnecessary trouble. She activated her Dharma treasure and transformed into a streak of light, flying away. I wandered outside for several days, and only after confirming it was safe did I quietly return to the Wangji residence. In the world of cultivation, one must never flaunt one's wealth. Remaining hidden is the true path to survival. The arduous days spent in Sunset Gorge are finally coming to an end. I planted over 1,000 of the cheapest jade Bodhi trees in my backyard, intending to conceal the corner where that peerless spirit fruit was hidden. Yet I never expected it to be discovered by a large bird perched upon the cliffside. Just as the spirit fruit was about to be snatched away, I decisively launched my flying needles to strike the beast down. The reason so many demonic beasts have been coming to steal my treasures recently is because the fruit I am growing is known as the 9-leaf sunset yang fruit. Consuming it allows one to cleanse the marrow, purge the bones, and cause one's cultivation base to soar. As the fruit nears maturation, the strange phenomena can no longer be contained, causing the spirit beasts throughout the back mountains to grow restless. The only solution is to acquire a high-grade concealment formation to mask the fragrance. However, I have been in Wulong Valley for 3 years now, and my pockets are cleaner than my face. I cannot afford even a single formation flag. It seems the only option is to head to the bounty hall and accept a mission, risking my life for the sake of spirit stones. I then arrived at the bounty hall, standing before that massive bounty board, carefully scrutinizing the tasks. "Excuse me, senior brother. May I ask how one might make contact with Fairy Shuangyu?" "Junior brother, what did you just say? You wish to meet Fairy Shuangyu? Is Fairy Shuangyu the kind of person one can meet simply by wishing for it? However, if you are capable of completing the task she has posted, perhaps you will have a chance to meet her. Is there truly no other way?" Fairy Shuangyu acts in very peculiar ways. She has no fixed dwelling, and her whereabouts are incredibly mysterious. If you wish to find her, the only way is to complete the bounty mission she has issued. A fox demon is causing chaos at Baiwa Mountain. All who have gone have either died or been severely injured. But this is the only mission currently available to accept. Wealth and glory are found within danger. I raise my hand, unleashing a fireball that surges violently toward the target. "You are still lucid? Why did you not fall victim to my illusions? Boy, were you truly lucky enough to escape death? I have completed the demon hunting mission. Bring the demon's carcass to Wang Yu Peak immediately. I will wait for only 1 incense stick's time. I will not wait past the deadline." It really is her. She looks somewhat familiar. I remember now. "You seem to be the disciple I once welcomed into the sect." Fairy, to think you still remember such a trivial matter. This junior is truly honored. "Senior Fairy, I have a request I would like to ask of you. I wonder if the reward items from this monster hunting quest can be exchanged for formation flags with concealment and illusion effects. Formation flags with illusion effects carry a much higher value. Would I not be at a great disadvantage to trade for them like this? If I may speak frankly, Senior Fairy, this junior is in urgent need of this item. Therefore, if Senior Fairy would be so kind as to agree, this junior is willing to supplement the trade with additional spirit stones." "Very well. It seems you and I share a bit of destiny. Take this illusion formation flag. Many thanks, Senior Fairy. I remember you seem to be the immortal cat, sent by a sect called the Wu sect. It is quite a coincidence. A few days before I returned to my hometown, I saw a few individuals claiming to be from the Wu sect, seemingly seeking aid from the Wulong Valley. I wonder if they have departed by now. Upon returning to Wangji residence, I followed the instructions given by Senior Fairy Shuang Yu, planted the 3 small flags outside the nursery, and channeled a trace of spiritual power into them. The nursery before my eyes vanished instantly, and not even a trace of its scent remained. Finally, I am safe. I intended only to focus on my cultivation, detached from worldly affairs. Yet this Wu sect seems to share a fated connection with me. Those who walk the path of immortality value karma. And for an expert like Senior Fairy Shuang Yu to deliberately mention this matter, it could not have been without reason. Could it be that she was subtly reminding me of this karmic tie? Very well. I shall go and investigate. Brother, I offer you my deepest gratitude for your assistance. I am Gong Sun, a member of the Wu sect. Brother, do not concern yourself with me any further. You must leave now. Our Wu sect has many enemies who are closing in. I fear that staying will only implicate you. It is my fellow junior disciple, Shu Taoist. From which cultivation sect do you hail? You wield a high-grade flying needle, yet it is not a ritual tool belonging to the 5 great sects. This person is likely a rogue cultivator without formal training. His foundation establishment, early-stage cultivation, makes him an opponent not easily handled. Gong Sun, move back a little. Taoist. I am a disciple of the Wulong Valley. The 5 great cultivation sects of our nation have always stood united against external threats. You and I have only met by chance. Is there really a need to resort to this? Are you afraid? If you do not wish to fight, that is fine. Hand over your storage ring, and I will let you go immediately. As expected, in the world of cultivation, strength is the only law. Those who do not understand this are destined to perish. This boy's cultivation base is clearly a stage below mine, yet he managed to slay my precious spirit beasts with such ease. I was distracted. That is all. Rest assured. The senior brother is Sect Master Ngo Than Huyen. Sect Master Ngo Than Huyen is not going to make it. He is not going to make it. It has only been 3 or 4 years with the cultivation and prowess of Sect Master Ngo Than Huyen. What kind of disaster could have befallen the O sect to lead to such a state? Carrying these doubts, I traveled quickly to O sect. Seeing the desolate scene before me, I could not help but feel sorrowful. Back then, to obtain the O long-lent immortal shadow, I accompanied Ngo Than Huyen here once. I still remember clearly that back then, O sect was teeming with people, a scene of great prosperity. Yet now, not even a soul can be found. Where is Ngo Than Huyen? Immortal Master Lai, the sect master, has remained within the forbidden grounds, forbidding anyone from approaching. I then headed straight for the black. This place remains as pitch black as ever. Looking from afar, I only saw a faint, shadowy figure, whose body was entirely black, soaking in the pool. The body of a mortal cannot withstand the powerful spiritual sense of a cultivator. This is the forbidden art of demonic possession. Get out here at once. Fellow Taoist, do not kill me. Do not kill me. I am willing to hand over all my secret techniques and treasures. I only ask that you grant me a path to survival. This type of demonic sorcery is truly cunning. But if I spare his life, it will surely lead to boundless calamity in the future. You shall not die in peace. In the name of the Heavenly Ghost Royal Clan, I curse you. After you die, the Heavenly Ghost King shall descend upon this world. He will exterminate your 9 generations, imprison your soul, and refine your primordial spirit, so that you may neither live nor die in peace. Because of my path to immortality, my obsession has become too deep. That old Taoist saw that I lacked an immortal root, yet possessed a rare, extreme yin body. Under the ravages of my inner demons, I allowed him to seize the opportunity to infiltrate and possess my mind. For the sake of that illusory, empty promise of longevity, mortals can become truly deranged, even willing to discard their own lives. This cultivation world is truly cruel. Someone has arrived, let us go out and see. Keep these 2 bottles of medicinal pills. One is for treating internal and external injuries, while the other serves as an antidote for various poisons. Young friend, I previously sensed a heavy yin aura lingering here, yet it has since vanished. Surely, you are responsible for its removal. May I ask from which sect you hail? Greetings, Great Master. This one is Yang Fan, a disciple of Wulong Valley. So he is a disciple of Wulong Valley. I am Ming Pu of the Tai Yan Temple. I am currently traveling to spread the Dharma, and having sensed the yin aura of the ghost sect, I came specifically to investigate. However, I perceive a dark mark flickering upon your forehead that is quite extraordinary. It appears that you faced no small amount of trouble when you dealt with that entity. The monks of Tai Yan Temple are truly as the legends describe. They possess profound abilities. The curse left behind by the Black Eagle was unexpected, yet it proved to be real. I humbly ask for your guidance, Great Master Mingpu. Is there a way to resolve this dark mark upon my forehead? Although I can discern its nature, I lack the means to break it here and now. If you wish to eradicate the dark mark on your forehead, you should travel to my Taiyan temple within the span of a year. There are masters within the temple who can assist you in removing it. I thank you for your guidance, Great Master. Within 1 year I shall certainly come to Taiyan temple to trouble you. Please wait, Great Master. May I ask if you truly represent the Taiyan temple? I wish to enter the path of Buddhism. Would you be willing to take me with you? To possess a yin extremis physique while lacking a celestial root is a rarity indeed. What is your name? Wu Qingquan. Very well. You may join my Taiyan temple. Yao Kui. You will no longer be alone on this journey. Gong Sun. I entrust the Yu sect to you. I hope that under your guidance, the Yu sect can restore its former prosperity and glory. Yang Farron, thank you. That single expression of gratitude contained far too much weight. There is no need for such formalities. The path of immortality is inherently lonely, and from here on, you must rely solely upon yourself. Having resolved the affairs of the Yu sect, I did not tarry, and began my return to Wulong Valley. With Sunset Gorge now in sight, I suddenly sensed an unfamiliar aura, which sent a jolt through my heart. Why is there a strange presence here? Has someone intruded upon my cultivation cave? The very thing I feared most has finally come to pass. This senior brother, Sunset Gorge, is a remote and barren place with thin spiritual energy. To think that someone actually resides here? I initially assumed the master of this place had returned, but it turned out to be a fellow disciple who, like me, stumbled upon this location by chance, and whose strength was merely at the 8th layer of qi refining. I am a deacon of the Baiji Hall, tasked with inspecting the cultivation of medicinal herbs here. Junior brother, do not cause trouble. Leave at once. The people of the Baiji Hall are truly preposterous. This remote herb garden in Wulong Valley hasn't been visited by anyone from the Baiji Hall in years. This man is clearly lying to me. I dare not disturb you. I dare not disturb you. Please continue with your work, senior brother. I was merely passing by, and out of curiosity I stopped to take a look. I shall depart immediately. This man's cultivation has already reached the 10th layer of qi refining. I must handle this with extreme caution. Hey, junior brother. Why have you not yet left? Senior brother, please come and take a look at this. It seems there is something here. Senior brother, what? What are you doing? Senior brother, what? What are you doing? It will not be well if I do not strike first. I offered you the kindness of letting you leave, yet you refuse to listen. Since you insist on courting death, then stay here forever. Die. He has returned. It seems he intends to kill me to silence me. My spiritual power has been greatly depleted by that fireball technique, a truly cunning calculation. Illusionary light formation. It is fortunate that I have the concealment formation taught to me by the Shuangyue immortal maid. If the 9-leaf Moyang fruit were to be exposed, I fear that those who would arrive today would not simply be a cultivator at the 10th layer of qi refining. Upon returning to my quarters, I took out the storage bag and the spirit beast pouch belonging to the cultivator from the Yuetxiao sect. Inside were over 20 low-grade spirit stones, a manual on beast taming, and various other items. I decided that before the 9-leaf Moyang fruit ripens, I will not leave Wulong Valley to avoid any unforeseen circumstances. Taking advantage of the fact that I still had over a dozen bottles of Bajan elixirs in my possession, I began to seclude myself, ignoring all affairs of the outside world, and focused solely on cultivating the Shijiao immortal technique. Soon, half a year had passed. After consuming nearly 70 bottles of Bazen elixirs in one go, I finally achieved a breakthrough to the 9th layer of qi refining. My senses have become this sharp. This is the realm of the 9th layer of qi refining. It is nearly ripe. Let me now test the power of the 9th layer of qi refining. Controlling water as a weapon. However, the Taishuan Ningguang formation seemed to become superficial as a result, fundamentally unable to unleash its true power. The Zhuji Shengjing allows one to wield everything from spears, blades, and swords to various heavy armaments with complete freedom. I only channeled a portion the size of a fingernail, and it could already be used as a melee weapon. Then, what about the ice arrow technique? As expected, it can be transformed naturally. The Taoist arts are ever-changing and unpredictable. Using a flying sword in close quarters will surely yield miraculous results. Thus, I spent the entire night practicing these techniques, unaware of how much time had passed. Another day drifted by, and I rode my Dharma artifact to the Spirit Herb Garden. This was my first time visiting since entering Oolong Valley. Disciple Yang Fan greets you, venerable uncle. Since it is your first time here, it costs 1 low-grade spirit stone per hour, and you may browse through everything as you wish. If you need anything, simply exchange your sect contribution points or spirit stones for a copy. I searched for a full hour, let alone a prescription to increase cultivation beyond the 9th level of qi refining. There was not even a recipe comparable to the 8 treasure pill. It was a complete waste of 1 spirit stone. This place is truly devoid of anything. Even the common spiritual herbs are not fully stocked. It seems I must petition the sect for a trip and try my luck at the Xuanpo Medicinal Garden. Get out, get out, get out! What do you mean you want to go to the Xuanpo Medicinal Garden? It is nothing more than a wasteland, overgrown with poisonous weeds. Are you all rushing there to court death? Venerable uncle, may I ask if there are truly any prescriptions for cultivation beyond the 9th level of qi refining here? Of course there are. However, how could such high-level prescriptions be casually placed on the 1st floor? Go to the 2nd and 3rd floors and search carefully. But I must warn you first. Regardless of whether you find something useful, not a single spirit stone of the fee shall be waived. Furthermore, the 2nd floor is 2 spirit stones per hour, and the 3rd is 3. This old man is clearly robbing me blind. Venerable uncle, this disciple's purse is light. Even the spirit stones for this single hour were saved with great difficulty, so perhaps I should just forget it. Wait, the viewing fee is halved, and regardless of which prescription you choose to copy, the contribution points or spirit stones required will be discounted by 30%, not half. Very well, then I thank you, venerable uncle. Get up there, quickly. A complete prescription for the Foundation Establishment pill? How is that possible? This pill recipe. It is unexpectedly a rare lightning attribute pill recipe. This time, the harvest has truly been bountiful. I decided not to descend to find the senior uncle for transcription until I had gathered everything of value. He collected 4 spirit stones, his demeanor entirely indifferent, as if the matter held no concern for him. I suspect this old man knew exactly what lay waiting up there. It is no wonder he was willing to let such an ancient manual gather dust while refining these medicinal pills. An ordinary alchemy furnace would never be able to withstand the heat. The specialized furnace used previously could not even reach the required temperature. It demands the spiritual flames born of heaven and earth to facilitate such tempering. One must take things one step at a time. I shall continue my cultivation using the remaining Ba-Zen pills. Everything else must wait until the 9-leaf Moyang fruit has fully ripened. Half a year later, the fruit finally reached total maturity. I plucked it directly, returned to my chamber to meditate and stabilize my breathing, and then consumed it. Over the following days, the medicinal power of the Moyang fruit was almost entirely absorbed, bringing me ever closer to the 10th level of qi refining. It is finally time to depart from Sunset Gorge. Although I am reluctant to leave this place, for the sake of my cultivation, and for the sake of greater safety and secrecy, it is truly time to move on. After a simple cleanup, I prepared to register at the headquarters before flying directly to Longxi Mountain. Upon arriving at Longxi Mountain, I headed straight for the deepest reaches of the range, seeking a jagged, incredibly secluded peak where no fellow disciples could be found within a 100-mile radius. Using a massive boulder, I carved out an immortal cave deep within the heart of the mountain, then set up an illusion array at the entrance. To better conceal the spirit soil, I decided to construct 2 separate caves. The outer cave was arranged as a standard living and cultivation area, while to reach the inner sanctum, one must traverse a winding corridor leading to a naturally formed, inverted, funnel-shaped underground valley. After some renovations, I laid out the spirit soil within this small valley. After a brief rest, I decided to accept another bounty mission, aiming to acquire a set of formation flags to construct a barrier that would perfectly shroud both the corridor and the entire inner cave. I then retrieved the storage bag belonging to the 10th level qi refining disciple I had encountered previously, unhesitatingly claiming nearly 100 low-grade spirit stones, and immediately flew toward the bounty hall. Upon arriving at the bounty hall, I pondered carefully and decided to accept a mission with the rebellious 4-image formation as the reward. The potent defensive and concealment capabilities of the rebellious 4-image formation are exactly what my inner cave requires. As for that black windhawk, very well, it seems I must make the trip. After registering the mission, I flew directly toward Blackfeather Mountain. This mountain is shrouded in thick, near-black fog all year round. Even cultivators at the qi refining stage pale at the mere mention of the demonic beasts that dwell within. Upon arriving, the sounds of a fierce battle echoed from deep within the mountain. I immediately held my breath and focused my senses, approaching with complete silence. Senior Brother Liu, I never expected you to be such a hypocritical, sanctimonious man. Junior Brother Leng, we are both cultivators. Why bother putting on this facade of nobility? Do you dare claim that you have never killed others to seize their treasures? I, Leng, have indeed done so, but only against the wicked. Despicable acts like secretly harming one's own sect brethren, as you have done, are beneath me. Liu Yuan, it was a waste for me to have ever sincerely befriended you. I never imagined that while you claimed this journey was for the Song Yu Ferry, you were actually targeting my Foundation Establishment pill all along. How truly detestable. Foundation Establishment pill and the Song Yu Ferry. It seems these two are entangled in a matter of significant interest. However, Their cultivation bases are far superior to mine. Give it up, junior brother Leng. Struggling is futile now. Hand over the foundation establishment pill obediently, and perhaps you can avoid unnecessary suffering. Go to hell. Leng Feiyun. You have already been struck by my venom. Let us see how much longer you can endure. Junior brother hiding over there. I am willing to offer the natal black feather of a black-winged eagle and 2 middle-grade spirit stones if you come to my aid. So you were discovered. Go ahead. You expect a mere ant at the 9th layer of chi refining to save you? Senior brothers, I am merely passing through. I have no intention of causing offense and will not disturb you further. Stop right there. Did I give you permission to leave? Senior brother, my elixir can certainly neutralize your toxin, but I require the natal black feather in exchange. Junior brother, I appreciate your offer, but the natal black feather is no ordinary item. Your cultivation is still too low. I fear you lack the strength to keep it, so I cannot give it to you. Here are 2 low-grade spirit stones. Consider them a reward for your presence. You would burn bridges the moment you cross them. In the world of cultivation, greed truly is the path to destruction. Very well, I shall take my leave now, you insolent brat. Junior brother Leng, your toxin remains unresolved. Are you truly prepared to risk our mutual destruction? Senior brother Liu, let us end this here today. How about we go our separate ways? You may leave, but he cannot. He has ruined my plans and must die. If you insist on standing in my way, die. My apologies to you both, but not a single one of you will leave here alive today. Junior brother, I have helped you at every turn, yet you show no gratitude and instead resort to poisoning me. Your shamelessness knows no bounds. The only reason you intervened earlier was because you feared Liu Yuan would kill me, leaving you alone to face him. But it is precisely because of you that I have been granted this opportunity. As long as you fulfill your promise and hand over the black feather core and the 2 middle-grade spirit stones, I shall spare you. What is there to fear? My master is a renowned poison cultivator. He can brew an antidote with ease. Do you truly think such base tactics could end my life? Junior brother, give me the antidote first. Once I have truly neutralized the poison, I will gladly offer you the payment you desire. You have run out of chances. Die. You wish to kill me? Do you have no idea who my master is? Master, save me. This talk of poisoning was merely a ploy to stall for time, wanting me to kill a cultivator at the peak of the 12th level of chi condensation. My spiritual power is simply not. These are the 2 middle-grade spirit stones and the black feather core. I only beg that you grant me a path to survival. If you had kept your word from the very beginning, you might have lived, but now it is too late. Liu Yuan's style of killing is aggressive and reckless, and his master is surely no ordinary figure. There is a tracking imprint hidden on this storage bag. Yuan Fair, I told you long ago, even your master cannot see through that woman, Song Yu. Yet you harbored such delusional thoughts, insisting on capturing that black-winged eagle just to win her favor. Whoever killed you, I will never forgive them. I will capture them alive, flay their skin, and pull out their tendons, but you may rest in peace in your next life. I have placed tracking imprints on all your defensive artifacts and talismans. As soon as he dares to bring them out, he will never escape my pursuit. At this moment, I looked at the 2 storage bags. I had intended to examine them, but a sudden sense of unease rose in my heart, so I ultimately abandoned that intention and only took out the bag containing the middle-grade spirit stones. So this is what a middle-grade spirit stone looks like? Truly extraordinary. It is no wonder that a single one can be exchanged for 100 low-grade spirit stones, and this small, insignificant feather is enough to trade for a precious magical artifact. I was filled with curiosity, holding it in my hands and studying it carefully for a long time, yet for the moment, I could not discern anything special about it. After putting away the black feather, I prepared to cultivate for a few days before venturing back out. Suddenly, my vision went dark, followed immediately by a sharp pain radiating from the center of my brow, but it came as quickly as it went. Within a few breaths, I had returned to normal. I hurriedly conducted a thorough examination of my body. Only after discovering nothing unusual did I enter a state of cultivation. A few days later, I disguised myself and quietly appeared at the Yunzhu market, entering various shops to sell the Xuangang pills, the red scale shield, and the fire cloud dagger one after another. Then, I headed to another location known as the Ting Chao market, where I discreetly sold the 100-odd primary level talismans I had acquired. The harvest this time was quite bountiful, and I proceeded to take inventory. In total, I had 320 low-grade spirit stones, the spoils of killing and looting. This is truly the fastest way to contend for resources in the world of cultivation. From now on, regardless of how friendly any cultivator may appear, I must always keep my guard up. A single fake foundation establishment pill cost 300 spirit stones. These 400+ stones were barely enough to cover the cost of a single portion of medicinal ingredients, and should the refinement fail, all my efforts would be for naught. It seems I must make a trip to the Xuanpo medicine garden. After waiting patiently for half a month, I snuck into the Xuanshang Hall to fulfill a commission. Is it you again? Senior Brother Mo. Are you here once more to claim a reward from Fairy Shuangyu? Fairy Shuangyu will not be appearing this time. She has gone out on business, and has yet to return. This is the small Yila 4-character formation. It is truly a magnificent item. You are indeed quite fortunate. Afterward, I returned to my new immortal cave, and following the method explained by Senior Brother Mo, I rotated the gears on the formation disc, instantly causing 5 rays of light to erupt, forming a colossal barrier of light that enveloped the entire cave from within. The safety and privacy of this new residence provided me with complete peace of mind. The following day, I hurried to the Baiki Hall, only to learn that one must register in advance to enter the Xuanpo medicine garden, and furthermore, 7/10 of all spirit herbs harvested must be surrendered. The number of disciples registering was truly overwhelming. The queue is so long that there is no telling how many months or years it would take. If Senior Sister Wen Xinjiao were willing to step forward and assist, perhaps registration would not be necessary. A sharp pain throbbed in my brow once more. It has been nearly a month since it began. Could the curse from that demon fish truly be time-sensitive? A month is almost upon us. With no other choice, I had to hurriedly inquire about Wen Xinjiao's whereabouts. Junior disciple asks, "Do you happen to know where Senior Sister Wen Xinjiao is currently cultivating?" Junior Sister Wen achieved Foundation Establishment 2 years ago. Do you not know this? Foundation Establishment, successful. Senior Uncle Wen has rendered great service to the sect. Therefore, after her successful breakthrough, she was placed in charge of guarding the Xuanpo medicine garden. If you wish to find her, you should head to the medicine garden. I did not expect that after such a long time, Senior Sister Wen would have successfully reached Foundation Establishment. But now that she is a senior uncle, our statuses are vastly different, and she may not necessarily be willing to help me. It matters not. One must grasp at any straw. I shall go there and see how things unfold. A few days later, I arrived before that magnificent, towering waterfall. Passing through the waterfall, the crevice that once barely accommodated a single person had now been expanded into a proper path. Upon entering, I immediately saw several disciples standing guard at the end of the passage. Junior Brother, please present your entry token. Senior Brother, I possess no such token. I have come to seek Senior Uncle Wen Xinjiao. I hope you might inform her of my arrival. What is this? You have no token? Yet you intend to have Senior Uncle Wen provide you with special treatment? Be off with you, quickly! Honestly, even now, there are still those who harbor delusions of taking advantage of the situation. Senior Brothers, I am Yang Fan. I truly am acquainted with Senior Uncle Wen. I implore you to inform her. I have no desire to make things difficult for you. I say, you mere 9th layer chi refining brat. Are you becoming increasingly presumptuous? Senior Brother Liu, Senior Brother Jiang, come here quickly. There is a troublemaker here. Drive him away. Is that Junior Brother Yang Fan? Without an entry token, no one is permitted to enter. You are merely an outer sect disciple, yet you dare claim to be acquainted with Senior Uncle Wen? Senior Uncle Wen has issued a decree. Anyone without an entry token. Senior, had you simply announced that Yang Fan requested an audience, why would our senior brother bother wasting breath on him? Just drive him away, lest our martial uncle blames us for failing to complete our tasks. Such audacity. Cease your actions. Pay respects to Martial Uncle Xingjiao. What is the meaning of this? Follow me inside. Martial Uncle Xingjiao. The number of disciples registered for the herb garden is truly excessive. I have an urgent matter and simply cannot wait several years. I have thus acted brazenly to implore your assistance, and if I have been abrupt or inconsiderate, I hope you will not hold it against me. Since you have come to harvest herbs, I will grant you 2 hours. Do not set foot in the restricted area deep within the garden, and ensure the quantity you harvest adheres to the sect's regulations. You must not exceed the limit. Many thanks, Martial Uncle, for your benevolence. The spiritual energy here is unusually dense. There must be a profound treasure hidden within. To be able to concentrate the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, this must be a young spirit eye tree. Senior Brothers, if you do not intend to summon the spirit beasts to inspect my harvested herbs, I shall be on my way. Junior Brother Yang is wise. As long as you self-report, there is no need for spirit beast verification. Senior Brothers, I appreciate your kindness, but I have urgent business to attend to. We shall meet again another day. I departed from Xuanpo Herb Garden without a moment's hesitation. Flying straight back to Luohe Mountain, I immediately planted the young spirit eye tree into the spiritual soil, and then extracted that black liquid to pour over it. Once the spiritual fluid seeped into the soil, a subtle change occurred, as if the sapling showed signs of rapid growth. With a heart full of anxiety, I planted the sapling into the spirit soil. After resting for 2 days, I left Wulong Valley and headed directly for Taiyan Temple. Benefactor, please halt. Entering without permission will trigger the temple's great mountain protection formation, and in the blink of an eye your life will be extinguished. Little monk, I have come from Wulong Valley to meet Master Mingpu, Please inform him of my arrival. Are you certain you seek Martial Uncle Ming Pu? I wish to see Master Ming Pu. Is there something wrong with that? Martial Uncle Ming Pu passed away 6 months ago. Passed away? How could that be? He was a high monk at the late stage of foundation establishment in your temple.
Little monk, previously, Master Ming Pu brought 2 women to the temple, one of whom was a mortal named Wu Qingxuan.
I wonder if she is still within the temple. What is your relationship to Wu Qingxuan? This is not a place for someone like you. You are clearly up to no good. The situation regarding Wu Qingxuan within this temple is far more complex than I anticipated. You misunderstand, Great Master. I am Yang Fan, a formal alchemy disciple of Wulong Valley. Before Master Ming Pu took Miss Wu away, I was entrusted by my elders to provide her with some dry rations. My visit to your temple today is merely to fulfill a request to deliver a message from her hometown. I have no ulterior motives. The message from her hometown? She is currently the demonic manifestation that our temple is suppressing. Your appearance at this time proves you must have been sent by the demonic path as reinforcement. Great Master, please reflect. I am merely a disciple at the 9th level of Qi refining. If I were sent by the demonic path, then the demonic path would be looking down on your esteemed temple far too much. Furthermore, if I truly had malicious intentions, why would I openly enter through the main gate to request an audience?
Senior Brother Qian, this benefactor truly only possesses the cultivation base of the Qi refining stage, and the Wulong Valley medallion at his waist is not a forgery.
If he claims to have been brought here by Martial Uncle Ming Pu, perhaps we should lead him to meet her. We might be able to discern her background before she fell into the demonic path. Very well. Benefactor, please follow me.
Great Masters, may I ask what transgression Miss Wu committed? And why is she referred to as a demonic manifestation?
It is not that she committed a transgression, but that her body harbors a malevolent demonic seed.
To suppress that surge of demonic energy,
Martial Uncle Ming Pu exhausted his essence and passed away. Now that woman has been completely consumed by the demonic energy. Her mind is clouded, and she is imprisoned at Zhaoyin Peak behind the mountain. The cultivation of this abbot must have already reached the core formation stage. His depth is truly unfathomable. Benefactor, since you are from Wulong Valley, do you know the background of Miss Wu? Reporting to the abbot, I only know that Wu Qingxuan comes from a respectable secular family. I have heard that Wu Qingxuan's family once saved a wandering cultivator in distress. Perhaps that was the root of her misfortune. Having heard from you 2 great masters that Wu Qingxuan has fallen to the demonic path, I cannot bear it. I have here a calming pill left to me by my elders. Although it is not an immortal elixir, it possesses the power to clear the mind and stabilize the spirit. I wonder if it might be of some use for Wu Qingxuan's condition. This pill will certainly not save her life. It is merely a pass. As long as I can infiltrate the back mountain, I will find a way. You are very kind, benefactor. In that case, let Ming Kong lead you to Zhaoyin Peak for a brief visit. But this is for one time only. If the woman's demonic nature erupts, you should not sacrifice your own life. Miss Wu, does the death of Great Master Ming Pu have any connection to you? Is that true? The death of Great Master Ming Pu Shi is related to me, but I did not kill him. I am merely a mortal. How could I possibly possess such capability?
It is said that before Great Master Ming Pu passed away, he utilized the mantra technique, and the person that the spell pointed to was you.
Yang Fan, if others do not believe me, do you not believe me either? What kind of person am I? You know me best of all. Great Master Ming Pu was a Buddhist cultivator at the late stage of foundation establishment, while I am but a mortal with no strength to truss a chicken. How could I possibly have killed him? Miss Wu, I believe you are not the murderer. Then could you tell me what exactly happened on that day? As for what happened that day, I am truly not certain myself.
Ever since I followed Great Master Ming Pu to Tainham Temple, I would go to the Ming Pu Hall every day at the hour of Mao to listen to his scriptures.
On the day of the incident, I arrived as usual, but for some unknown reason, I drifted off to sleep while listening to the lecture. When I awoke, I discovered he had fallen in a pool of blood, already dead. On that day, were there only you and Great Master Ming Pu in the hall? Or was there anyone else?
There was also the simple-minded girl whom Great Master Ming Pu brought back with him.
Miss Miao Kui. Miao Kui is that girl with the incredibly rigid and strange smile. That being said, this Miao Kui is also highly suspicious, but the members of Tainham Temple insist that the mantra technique could not possibly be wrong. Therefore, they are determined that I am the culprit controlled by demonic obsession. Miss Wu, please remain calm. I will ask the people of Tainham Temple to locate this Miss Miao Kui. Perhaps the truth will soon be brought to light. Benefactor Yang, how did it go?
Senior Wu Xingxuan said.
At that time, a person named Miao Kui was also present. Does this senior happen to know where this Miao Kui is currently staying? That young woman arrived here, but she speaks only nonsense all day. However, given her level of cultivation, She could not have killed Martial Uncle Mingpu. Senior, would you be able to take me to meet this Miao Kui?
Very well, Benefactor Yang, follow me.
Do not kill me. Do not kill me. Do not come any closer. Why have you transformed into demons, yet still refuse to spare me?
Benefactor Yang, how do things stand?
This woman has completely lost her mind, muttering such nonsense all day long, yet with her lowly cultivation base, she could not possibly have killed Uncle Master Mingpu. This entire charade is disguised with extreme perfection. Too perfect, in fact, to the point where it seems forced.
Senior, would you be willing to lead me to the Mingpu Hall to investigate?
Perhaps we shall have our answer soon.
Senior, is there a possibility that a mortal was possessed by a demonic cultivator and was able to conceal their aura so craftily that even you were unable to detect it?
That is impossible. If it were a standard possession, we might have erred, but when a mortal is possessed, the demonic energy and the mortal flesh repel each other intensely, making it absolutely impossible to conceal.
Senior,
I fear that this time, you have truly been mistaken.
Benefactor Yang, despite your cultivation being limited to the qi refining stage, you dare to be so certain that you can discern such clues.
Just how much confidence do you have in this?
70 to 80%.
We need only go to the Yin Feng dynasty to confirm it one last time. But it requires you, Senior, to fully deactivate the light prison formation. I never imagined that you were the one who truly killed Great Master Mingpu.
Miss Wu,
since you have stepped onto the path of immortality and are capable of cultivation, why then did you strike down Great Master Mingpu?
Yang Fan,
I have underestimated you. I have completely underestimated you.
Yang Fan, how on earth did you discover it was me?
I was certain my performance was flawless. The flaw lay within your own words.
Back when you were in the prison cell, you told me that before Mingpu died, he used a true incantation. Yet, after I questioned Master Mingkong, not a single soul from top to bottom within Taiyan Temple spoke of such a thing.
And I myself had not uttered those words until just now. Therein lies the problem. If you were truly unconscious, then how could you possibly know that Mingpu used a true incantation before his death? I was the one who killed Mingpu. I was possessed by that demonic fish spirit. Not only did I obtain a portion of its memories, but it also completely awakened my extreme yin physique.
Yang Fan, do you know what it feels like for a mortal with no attachments to suddenly possess peerless cultivation?
I utilized the secret arts of the Heavenly Ghost sect,
stealing the spirits of monks in the shadows to sustain my power,
allowing my cultivation to advance 1,000 miles in a single day.
But that old man Mingpu discovered the anomaly.
He began to suspect me, and I had no other choice.
I had no choice but to kill him.
To attain a body capable of cultivation, you endured over a decade of suffering as a mortal, and in exchange for this moment on the path of cultivation, to hear the Tao in the morning and perish by evening, I am content.
Yang Fan, do you also believe that I deserve to die?
Do not waste your energy. I have no regrets.
Yang Fan,
thank you for allowing me to feel a glimmer of warmth in this cold life. Knowing you hold me in your heart, I have no regrets. Our meeting was a stroke of fate. You must live well and forget me.
Miss Wu,
set your heart at ease. I accept this bond between us. I accept this fate that you have offered. If the path to immortality is heartless, then I shall